Open on silence, 3 seconds. Then, a quiet voice, almost apologetic. This is not useful information. No one will test you on this. The listener probably won't remember any of it by morning, and that is entirely the point. The voice is soft, unhurried, a companion for the dark. These are just things that happen to be true about the words we use. Things people noticed, things people wrote down. Now, the first one. The word set has more distinct definitions than any other word in the English language. The Oxford English Dictionary lists 464 separate meanings for this single 3-letter word. It is a verb, a noun, an adjective, and more. It can mean to place something down, or to harden, or to configure, or to establish. The word itself carries an unusual weight, holding more meanings than almost any other combination of letters in the language. The word Q has a peculiar property. It is the only English word that is pronounced exactly the same when the last 4 letters are removed. Without the final 4, it becomes que, but the pronunciation does not change. The U is entirely silent, a train of letters that serves only to indicate the sound of the initial consonant. It is a word that carries extra letters for no reason other than history and convention, and those extra letters for nothing about how it sounds. There is a name for the study of silent letters in English. It is called aphthongology. The word itself contains a silent letter, the P at the start, which makes it a self-referential term. Aphthongology examines why English has so many letters that are written but never spoken, the ghosts that inhabit our spelling, the marks on the page that exist only for the eye and never for the ear. English has at least 14 distinct vowel sounds, but only 5 vowel letters to write them with. The 5 letters, A, E, I, O, U, must somehow represent all the different ways we shape our mouths and throats to produce the sounds of speech. Sometimes Y is added to the list, but that still leaves many sounds unrepresented. The same written vowel can sound completely different in different words, and different written vowels can sound identical. It is a system that works through familiarity rather than consistency. In 1934, a word was accidentally added to the dictionary. The word was dord, and it was given the definition density. It appeared in the 2nd edition of Webster's New International Dictionary and remained there for 8 years before anyone noticed. Someone had submitted a note to add D or D as an abbreviation for density, and the editors mistakenly turned it into a full word. It is called a ghost word, a term that exists only because of a printing error, a brief apparition in the language that was eventually exorcised. The constructed word goatee can be pronounced to sound exactly like fish. The go takes the sound from the word tough, the o takes the sound from the word women, and the t takes the sound from the word nation. Put them together and you have the spelling of fish, using entirely different parts of the English language. It is a demonstration of the flexibility and absurdity of English spelling, and the writer George Bernard Shaw is often associated with it, though he did not invent it. The Inuit languages of the Arctic have a famously rich vocabulary for snow. The exact number of words varies depending on which language and which count you use, but the principle is real. Languages develop more words for things they encounter frequently. In English, we might say snow, or slush, or powder. In the Arctic, speakers distinguish between snow on the ground, falling snow, drifting snow, and many other forms. The language adapts to the environment, building distinctions where they are needed. The longest English word that has no vowel is rhythms. It has only consonants, though some would argue that the letter Y can function as a vowel in this context. Still, it is often cited as a word without the traditional vowels, standing as a testament to the flexibility of the English sound system. It is a word about patterns and beats, and its spelling is as rhythmic as its meaning. There is no single widely accepted common English word for the temporary indentation left on the skin after wearing tight clothing. In medicine, the term pitting edema describes a related condition, but the everyday phenomenon, the mark left by an elastic band or the edge of a sock, has no simple colloquial name. We all know what it is, but we have never given it a single word to describe it. The word loanword is itself a loanword. It comes from the German word Lehnwort, which means exactly the same thing. So the English term for a word borrowed from another language was borrowed from another language. It is a self-referential word, pointing to its own origin every time it is used. English speakers use about 7,000 distinct words in their daily conversation. The average person's active vocabulary is relatively small, though their passive vocabulary, the words they understand when they read or hear them, is much larger. Shakespeare, in all of his plays and poems, used about 20,000 distinct words, almost 3 times the typical daily vocabulary. He did not know as many words as he is sometimes credited with, but he used more words than most people use in a lifetime. The letter E appears in about 11% of all English words. It is the most common letter in the language, appearing more often than any other. Across all written English text, roughly 1 in every 9 letters is an E. It is the workhorse of the alphabet, the letter that holds the language together through sheer frequency. English has the concept of contronyms, words that can mean the opposite of themselves. The word cleave can mean to split apart or to stick together. The word sanction can mean to permit or to penalize. The word dust can mean to remove fine particles or to sprinkle fine particles. These words carry both meanings at once, and context alone determines which one the speaker intends. The term pseudonym comes from Greek roots. Pseudes means false, and onoma means name. A pseudonym is a false name, a name that a writer adopts for publication. The same root gives us anonymous, without a name, and eponymous, giving a name to something. These words all trace back to the same Greek source, which has given English a rich vocabulary of naming terms. The longest English word that can be typed using only the left hand on a standard keyboard is stewardesses. It is a word about flight attendants, and it requires only the left hand to type, which makes it a curiosity for typists. There is also a longest word for the right hand, but stewardesses remains the most common example. The phrase, "the whole 9 yards," has an uncertain origin. Some believe it refers to the length of a machine gun belt during World War II, or the amount of fabric in a Scottish kilt, or the number of yards in a ship's sail. The exact origin is unknown, and the phrase simply appeared in the mid-20th century without a clear explanation. It is a linguistic mystery that has never been solved. The word goodbye is a contraction. It comes from the phrase, "God be with you," which was shortened over time to "God be with ye," then to "God be yoy," and finally to "goodbye." The secular form of the word carries the history of its religious origin, but the contraction has become so common that most people do not think about its source. The study of words and their origins is called etymology. It comes from the Greek etymon, meaning true sense, and logos, meaning study. Etymology examines how words change over time, how they travel from language to language, how their meanings shift and transform. It is the history of the language, told one word at a time. The word alphabet comes from the first 2 letters of the Greek alphabet, alpha and beta. Alpha comes from the Phoenician aleph, meaning ox, and beta comes from the Phoenician beth, meaning house. The letters themselves were originally pictures of things, and the names of the letters still carry those ancient meanings. In English, there is a distinction between the singular you and the plural you, or rather, there used to be. The second-person plural ye existed in early English, and thou was the singular form. Over time, you replaced both, and English lost its distinction between singular and plural pronouns. Some regional dialects have reintroduced the distinction with terms like y'all or you guys, but Standard English has only one form. The word butterfly has an uncertain etymology. Some say it comes from the color of the brimstone butterfly, which appears yellow like butter. Others say it comes from the belief that butterflies stole butter, or that witches transformed into butterflies. The exact origin is unknown, and the word remains one of the unexplained terms in the English language. There is a term for the study of a particular subject combined with the word ology. These are the words that end with ology, meaning the study of. There are hundreds of them: biology, geology, psychology, sociology, and many more. The root is Greek, and it has produced a vast vocabulary for describing fields of knowledge. The word penguin may come from the Welsh penguin, meaning white head. The penguin's head is not white, but the original bird called a penguin was the great auk, which did have a white patch on its head. When explorers encountered the southern birds that looked similar, they gave them the same name. The word traveled from one hemisphere to the other. The longest palindrome in English is the word Tatarat, which was coined by James Joyce in his novel Ulysses. A palindrome is a word that reads the same forward and backward, and this one is 12 letters long. It is a word that exists solely for its symmetry. The word cinnamon comes from the Greek kinnamomon, which came from a Phoenician word. The spice has been traded for thousands of years, and its name has traveled through multiple languages before arriving in English. The word is a record of the trade routes that brought the spice from its origin in Southeast Asia to the Mediterranean and beyond. The word jazz has an uncertain origin. It appeared in the early 20th century, and it may have come from a slang term for energy or vitality. The exact source is not known, and the word simply emerged as a description of a new style of music. It is one of the many words whose origin has been lost to history. There is a term for words that are spelled the same but pronounced differently, like reed and reed, or wind and wind. These are called heteronyms, and they create confusion for learners of English. The same spelling can produce different sounds, and the meaning depends entirely on context. The word orange had no rhyme in English until the 19th century. It was considered a word without a perfect rhyme, but the term door hinge is sometimes used as a near rhyme, and the word blorange, a hill in Wales, is a proper noun that rhymes perfectly. The word orange still has very few rhymes, but it is no longer considered rhymeless. The word quarantine comes from the Italian quarantina, meaning 40 days. During the Black Death, ships arriving in Venice were required to wait 40 days before disembarking to ensure they were not carrying the plague. The period of isolation became the word itself, and the meaning has extended to any period of isolation. The word daisy comes from day's eye. The flower opens at dawn and closes at dusk, as if it is watching the day. The name describes the flower's behavior, and it has been used for centuries to refer to the simple white and yellow flower that grows in fields and lawns. English has no official language academy. Unlike French, which has the Académie Française, or Spanish, which has the Real Academia Española, English has no central authority that decides what is correct. The language evolves naturally, with usage determining what is accepted. There is no one who can declare a word valid or invalid, and the language changes according to the people who speak it. The word yes comes from Old English jese, meaning so be it. The word has been used for agreement for over 1,000 years, and it has changed very little in that time. It is one of the most common words in the language, and it is one of the first words that learners acquire. The word nice has changed meaning significantly over time. It originally meant foolish or silly, then it meant shy or reserved, then it meant fastidious or precise, and only later did it come to mean pleasant or agreeable. The word has traveled through several meanings before arriving at its current one, and its history is a record of how words can shift. The word adieu comes from French, and it means to God, a way of saying goodbye by commending someone to divine care. The English equivalent is goodbye, which has the same religious origin. Both words carry the history of their religious roots, even though they are used in secular contexts now. There is a term for a word that is used to fill space in a conversation without adding meaning. These are called filler words, and they include like, and you know. They are not meaningless. They serve a function in conversation, signaling that the speaker is thinking or that they are seeking a response. They are part of the rhythm of speech. The word tattoo comes from the Polynesian tatau, meaning to mark or strike. The word was brought to English by Captain James Cook, who encountered the practice in Tahiti. The word describes both the act of marking the skin and the permanent design that results. The word robot comes from the Czech robota, meaning forced labor. It was first used in the 1920 play RUR by Karel Čapek, and it has since become the standard term for mechanical beings. The word describes machines that work, and its origin is a word about work. The word nerd was first used in the Dr. Seuss book If I Ran the Zoo, where it referred to a small creature. The word later came to mean a socially awkward person, and its origin is purely literary. It is a word that began in a children's book and became part of the language. The word fizzle is onomatopoeic. It sounds like what it describes. It imitates the sound of a hissing or sputtering, and it has been used in English since the 16th century. Onomatopoeic words are common in English, and they are one of the ways that language imitates the world. The body is a collection of quiet processes, things it does without asking, without announcing, without ever needing to be taught. The heart beats, the lungs expand, the stomach churns. These are the automatic systems, the ones that run in the background while the mind drifts. The body remembers what to do, even when the conscious mind has no idea how any of it works. Here are some of the things the body does while you are not paying attention. Human stomach acid is strong enough to dissolve metal. The hydrochloric acid in the stomach has a pH of about 1.5, which is strong enough to break down razor blades if they were to be ingested. But the body protects itself with a thick layer of mucus that lines the stomach wall, preventing the acid from digesting the stomach itself. This mucus is constantly replenished, a protective barrier against the very substance that breaks down food. The small intestine is about 22 feet long in an adult human. The large intestine, by contrast, is only about 5 feet long. The names are not about length, but about diameter. The small intestine is narrower, and the large intestine is wider. The small intestine does most of the work of absorbing nutrients, while the large intestine primarily absorbs water and compacts waste. There is a muscle in the middle ear called the tensor tympani. Some people can voluntarily contract this muscle to produce a low rumbling sound that only they can hear. It is a muscle that usually responds to loud sounds, protecting the ear by damping vibrations. But for those who can control it, it becomes a private sound, a rumble that no one else can perceive. Humans are the only animals that produce emotional tears. Other animals produce tears for lubrication of the eyes, but they do not weep in response to emotion. The tears that fall when a person is sad or overwhelmed are unique to human beings. The purpose of emotional tears is still not fully understood, but they appear to serve a social function, signaling distress to others. The average person sheds about 1.5 pounds of skin every year. The skin is constantly renewing itself, shedding dead cells and replacing them with new ones. Over the course of a lifetime, this adds up to roughly 50 pounds of shed skin. The dust in a home is partly composed of these shed cells, the invisible remnants of the body's constant regeneration. The human nose can remember about 50,000 distinct scents. This is a remarkable capacity, but it is less studied than visual memory. The olfactory system is closely connected to the brain's limbic system, which processes emotion and memory. This is why a particular smell can bring back a memory so vividly, sometimes more powerfully than a visual image. When you blush, the lining of your stomach also turns red. The same autonomic nervous system that causes blood vessels in the face to dilate also causes blood vessels in the stomach to dilate. The blush is visible on the skin, but it is happening internally as well. The stomach blushes along with the face, a hidden response to the same emotion. The cornea of the eye has no blood vessels. It is the only part of the human body that receives oxygen directly from the air rather than from the bloodstream. The cornea is transparent, and blood vessels would interfere with its clarity. It is nourished by tears and the aqueous humor inside the eye, and it gets its oxygen directly from the atmosphere. Humans lose about 100 hairs from the scalp each day. This is roughly 36,500 hairs per year, though new hairs grow in to replace them. The hair follicles go through cycles of growth and rest, and shedding is a normal part of this process. The average person has about 100,000 hairs on their head, so the daily loss is a small fraction of the total. The tongue has about 10,000 taste buds. Each taste bud lives for only 10 to 14 days before it is replaced. The taste buds are constantly renewing themselves, ensuring that the sense of taste remains sharp. The cells are replaced so regularly that the tongue's sensory system is always fresh and responsive. The jaw muscle, the masseter, is the strongest muscle in the body by weight. It can apply over 200 pounds of force to the teeth. The masseter is responsible for chewing, and it is one of the most powerful muscles relative to its size. It is the muscle that closes the jaw, and it does so with considerable force. Humans are bioluminescent. We emit visible light, but it is about 1,000 times too faint for the human eye to perceive. The light is produced by chemical reactions in the body, and it is detectable with sensitive instruments. The glow is faint and constant, a gentle luminescence that we cannot see. The heart beats about 100,000 times per day. Over the course of a year, that is about 35 million beats. Over an average lifetime, the heart beats more than 2.5 billion times without ever pausing for rest. The heart does not take a break. It continues beating from before birth until death. The human skeleton is replaced about every 10 years. The bones are constantly being remodeled, with old bone tissue being broken down and new bone tissue being formed. The skeleton is a living organ, not a static structure, and it adapts to the stresses placed upon it. The bones you have today are not the same bones you had 10 years ago. The brain uses about 20% of the body's oxygen, even though it is only about 2% of the body's weight. The brain is metabolically active, constantly consuming energy even during sleep. It requires a steady supply of oxygen and glucose to function, and the body prioritizes blood flow to the brain above other organs. The human eye can distinguish about 10 million different colors. The eye has 3 types of color receptors, called cones, each sensitive to different wavelengths of light. The brain combines the signals from these cones to produce the full range of color perception. This capacity is remarkable, though it is limited compared to some other animals. The liver is the only organ in the human body that can regenerate itself. If a portion of the liver is removed, the remaining tissue can grow back to nearly its original size. This regenerative capacity is unique among human organs, and it allows the liver to recover from damage that would be permanent in other organs. The human body contains about 37 trillion cells. This number is an estimate, and the exact count varies between individuals. These cells are organized into tissues, organs, and systems, each performing specific functions. The body is a collection of trillions of cells working in coordination. The average person has about 5 liters of blood in their body. Blood makes up about 7 to 8% of body weight. It circulates through the body, delivering oxygen and nutrients to cells and removing waste products. The blood is a vital fluid, and the body maintains its volume through careful regulation. The human nose has a structure called the vomeronasal organ, which is involved in detecting pheromones in some animals. In humans, this organ is vestigial, meaning it has lost most of its function over the course of evolution. It is present, but does not appear to play a significant role in human behavior. The skin is the largest organ in the human body. It covers the entire body, protecting it from infection, injury, and dehydration. The skin is about 2 millimeters thick on average, and it weighs about 8 to 10 pounds in an adult. It is the body's first line of defense against the outside world. The human body has about 640 muscles. These muscles are responsible for movement, posture, and heat production. They are composed of muscle tissue, which contracts and relaxes to produce force. The muscles account for about 40% of the body's weight. The heart is located in the middle of the chest, slightly to the left. It is about the size of a fist and weighs about 10 ounces. The heart is a muscular pump, and it is divided into 4 chambers that work together to circulate blood. The left side of the heart pumps blood to the body, and the right side pumps blood to the lungs. The lungs contain about 300 million alveoli. These are tiny air sacs where gas exchange occurs. Oxygen from the air passes into the blood, and carbon dioxide passes from the blood into the air. The surface area of the alveoli is roughly the size of a tennis court, providing ample space for gas exchange. The human body has about 26 billion neurons in the brain. These neurons are connected to each other by synapses, forming a complex network. The brain is the control center of the body, and it coordinates all of the body's functions. The number of neurons is fixed in adulthood, and they are not replaced when they die. The stomach empties its contents into the small intestine about 2 to 4 hours after a meal. The time varies depending on the type of food and the individual's metabolism. The stomach processes food, breaking it down with acid and enzymes before releasing it into the small intestine for further digestion. The liver produces about 1 liter of bile per day. Bile is a digestive fluid that breaks down fats in the small intestine. The liver is a large organ, weighing about 3 pounds, and it performs hundreds of functions. Bile production is just one of its many essential roles. The kidneys filter about 180 liters of blood per day. This is about 45 gallons. They remove waste products and excess fluid, producing urine. The kidneys are efficient filters, and they maintain the body's fluid balance by adjusting the concentration of urine. The human body temperature is maintained at about 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. This is the average temperature, and it varies slightly between individuals. The body regulates its temperature through sweating, shivering, and adjusting blood flow to the skin. This thermoregulation keeps the body's internal environment stable. The eyes blink about 15 to 20 times per minute. This is about 1,200 blinks per hour. Blinking spreads tears across the surface of the eye, keeping it moist and free of debris. It also protects the eye from injury and helps to clear the visual field. The human body produces about 1 to 2 liters of saliva per day. Saliva is secreted by the salivary glands, and it helps to moisten food, begin digestion, and protect the teeth. The production of saliva is continuous, and it is influenced by the sight, smell, and thought of food. The immune system can recognize millions of different antigens. These are substances that the body identifies as foreign, such as bacteria and viruses. The immune system produces antibodies that bind to these antigens, neutralizing them and marking them for destruction. This capacity for recognition is essential for defending the body against infection. The body has a biological clock that regulates sleep and wakefulness. This clock is located in the brain, and it responds to light and darkness. The clock produces a daily rhythm of about 24 hours, influencing sleep, hormone levels, body temperature, and other physiological processes. And that is the body, a collection of quiet processes, all happening without conscious effort. Maps are simplifications. They take the complexity of the earth and reduce it to lines on a page. Borders are agreements, sometimes arbitrary, sometimes contested. The lines we draw on maps do not always match the reality on the ground. Countries are inventions, and their boundaries are negotiations. Some borders run through the middle of buildings. Some countries exist only on paper. Here are some of the quieter curiosities of geography. There are over 40 towns in France called Villeneuve. The name means new town, and it has been given to settlements founded at different times throughout French history. The name does not indicate that the town is new now. It indicates that it was new when it was founded. Many of these Villeneuves are centuries old, but they still carry the name that described them at their beginnings. The country of Liechtenstein has more registered companies than citizens. There are about 73,000 registered companies and only about 39,000 citizens. The country has become a hub for corporate registrations because of its favorable tax laws and business environment. The companies outnumber the people, making Liechtenstein a peculiar case in global economics. There is a border between Belgium and the Netherlands that runs through a single café. The border line is marked on the floor of the café, and the building has two separate telephone numbers, one for each country. The cafe serves customers on both sides of the border, and the line runs through the middle of the room. It is a border that exists in a single building. Alaska is the northernmost, westernmost, and easternmost state in the United States. It is northernmost because of its latitude. It is westernmost because it extends far into the Pacific. It is easternmost because the Aleutian Islands cross the 180th meridian, placing some islands in the eastern hemisphere. This makes Alaska the only state that is both the most western and the most eastern. The Caspian Sea is neither a sea nor a lake. It is a closed body of water with no connection to the ocean, which makes it a lake by definition. But it is saline, which is a characteristic of seas. It is legally treated as both in different contexts, and its status has been a subject of debate among the countries that border it. It is the largest inland body of water in the world. There is a place called the Principality of Sealand, a micronation that claims sovereignty over an abandoned World War II sea fort off the coast of England. The fort was built in international waters, and it was occupied by a family in the 1960s. They declared it a sovereign state, though no country has recognized it. Sealand issues passports, stamps, and currency, and it continues to assert its independence. The United States-Canada border is the longest international border in the world. It stretches for 5,525 miles from the Atlantic to the Pacific, and it is also the longest undefended border. The border is marked by monuments and boundary lines, but there are no military fortifications along its length. It is a border of agreement rather than conflict. There are at least 3 places in the United States called Moscow, Paris, and London. These names are scattered across different states, and they were often given by settlers who wanted to evoke the cultures of Europe. The names themselves have become common place names in the United States, appearing in dozens of locations. The world's largest island is Greenland. But Greenland is not a continent, while Australia is a continent. Australia is much larger, but it is classified as a continent, not an island. Greenland is large enough to appear similar in size to Australia on some map projections, but it is not a continent. The distinction is a matter of convention, not strict definition. The shortest border in the world is between Spain and Morocco. It is the border around the Peñón de Vélez de la Gomera, a small Spanish outpost on the coast of Morocco. The border is only about 85 meters long, making it the shortest international border. It is a tiny piece of territory separated from Morocco by a small border. There is a tri-point in Kyrgyzstan where the borders of China, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan meet. The exact location of the tri-point is disputed, and the 3 countries have not agreed on its precise coordinates. The border lines converge in a mountainous region, and the uncertainty about the exact meeting point reflects the complexities of border demarcation. The country of Monaco has a land area of only 0.78 square miles. Its border with France is only 3.4 miles long. Monaco is the second smallest country in the world, after Vatican City. It is a tiny enclave on the Mediterranean coast, and its small size makes it one of the most densely populated countries in the world. There is a town in Norway called Hell. The name comes from the Old Norse word hellir, meaning cave or overhang. It is not related to the English word for the underworld. The town has become a tourist attraction because of its name, and it receives visitors who want to photograph themselves at the sign. The country of Lesotho is an enclave entirely surrounded by South Africa. It is one of the world's only independent enclaves, a country that is completely contained within another country. Lesotho is entirely mountainous, and it has no coast. It is a small country with a unique geographic position. The most isolated inhabited island in the world is Tristan da Cunha. It is located in the South Atlantic Ocean, and the nearest land is St. Helena, about 1,500 miles away. The island has a population of about 250 people, and it is accessible only by sea. It is a remote outpost of human habitation. The city of Istanbul spans 2 continents. It lies on both sides of the Bosphorus Strait, with one part in Europe and one part in Asia. The city has been a crossroads between continents for centuries, and its location has given it strategic and cultural importance. The two sides are connected by bridges and ferries. The border between the United States and Mexico is about 1,954 miles long. It is one of the most frequently crossed international borders in the world. The border passes through deserts, rivers, and cities, and it is marked by fences, walls, and monuments. It is a border of significant economic and political importance. There is a point in the Pacific Ocean called Point Nemo, which is the farthest point from any land. It is known as the oceanic pole of inaccessibility. The nearest land is about 1,450 miles away. It is the most remote place on Earth, a point in the vast emptiness of the ocean. The country of Bhutan has a policy of prioritizing gross national happiness over gross domestic product. It is the only country with such a policy, and it measures the well-being of its citizens through surveys that assess their quality of life. The policy has become famous as an alternative to economic growth, as the primary measure of progress. The Republic of Fiji has an island called the Island of the Dead in its local language. The island is used for burial grounds, and it is considered sacred. The name reflects the cultural practices of the Fijian people, who have a long history of burial traditions on the island. The city of Venice is built on 118 small islands. The islands are connected by canals and bridges, and the city has no roads for cars. The buildings are supported on wooden piles driven into the mud, and the city is slowly sinking. It is a city built on water, and it has existed in its current form for over 1,000 years. The country of Singapore is a city-state. It is both a country and a city, and it has no capital because the entire country is the capital. Singapore is an island nation at the tip of the Malay Peninsula, and it has become one of the most prosperous countries in the world through trade and commerce. The Ganges River Delta is the largest river delta in the world. It is formed by the Ganges and Brahmaputra rivers in Bangladesh and India. The delta is about 220 miles wide, and it is one of the most fertile regions in the world. It is also densely populated, with millions of people living on the delta's islands. The country of Finland has a national park that is located entirely within a lake. The park is on an island in Lake Inari, and it is accessible only by boat. The park is a protected area, and it is one of the many national parks in Finland that preserve the country's natural landscapes. The concept of the prime meridian was established in 1884 at the International Meridian Conference. The prime meridian runs through Greenwich, England, and it is the line of 0 degrees longitude. The conference established the meridian as the reference point for time zones and global navigation. The country of Andorra is located in the Pyrenees Mountains between France and Spain. It has a population of about 77,000 people, and it is a co-principality, meaning it is governed by two co-princes. One is the President of France, and the other is the Bishop of Urgell in Spain. The country is a remnant of the feudal system. The Panama Canal connects the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. It is about 50 miles long, and it saves ships from having to navigate around South America. The canal was completed in 1914, and it has been a vital shipping route ever since. It is one of the most important engineering projects in history. The country of Cyprus is divided by a demilitarized zone known as the Green Line. The line separates the Greek Cypriot south from the Turkish Cypriot north. The zone is patrolled by the United Nations, and it is a buffer between the two communities. The line has been in place since 1964. The island of Madagascar is the fourth largest island in the world. It is located off the coast of Africa, and it has a unique ecosystem with plants and animals that are found nowhere else. The island separated from the African continent millions of years ago, and its isolation has allowed for the evolution of distinctive species. The country of Luxembourg is one of the smallest in Europe, but it is one of the richest in the world. It has a population of about 630,000, and its economy is based on banking and finance. The country is a member of the European Union, and it is a major center for international banking. The city of Cairo is located on the Nile River, and it is the largest city in Africa. The city has a population of over 20 million people, and it is the cultural and political center of Egypt. Cairo is a city of ancient history and modern growth, a center of commerce and culture. The country of Nepal contains Mount Everest, the tallest mountain in the world. Everest is about 29,000 feet tall, and it is a destination for climbers from around the world. The mountain is sacred to the Nepalese people, and it is a symbol of the country's natural heritage. The concept of the equator is an imaginary line around the middle of the Earth. It divides the planet into the northern and southern hemispheres. The equator is about 24,900 miles long, and it is the line of 0 degrees latitude. It is a reference point for all geographic measurement. The country of Iceland sits on the mid-Atlantic ridge. It is one of the only places in the world where the ridge is above water. The country is volcanically active, and it has geysers, hot springs, and lava fields. The ridge runs through the country, and it is visible as a rift that separates the North American and Eurasian tectonic plates. And that is the map. The lines on the page, the agreements and disagreements, the places that exist and the places that only exist on paper. The things we touch every day have histories. They were invented by someone, somewhere, at some specific time. They have evolved from earlier forms, changed materials, adapted to new uses. We use them without thinking about where they came from or how they got the way they are. Here are some of the quiet histories of ordinary objects. The paperclip was not patented until 1899. The design by Johan Wahler in Norway was actually never produced. It was an idea that existed on paper but was never manufactured. The familiar looped design that we use today was developed later, and Wahler's patent was for a different shape. The paperclip we use is a simple piece of wire bent into a specific form, and it has changed very little since its introduction. The modern fork has 4 tines because the earlier 2-tine fork was considered too sharp for eating. Byzantine princesses began using forks in the 11th century, and the design evolved over time. The 2-tine fork was used for serving, but the 4-tine fork was better for eating because it could hold food more securely. The fork became a standard eating utensil in Europe over several centuries. The zipper was originally called a clasp locker. It was first used on boots, not on clothing. The design was developed in the 1890s, and it was intended to make it easier to fasten boots. The zipper did not appear on clothing until the 1920s, when it was adopted for trousers and jackets. The name zipper came later, from the sound it makes when it is closed. The first ballpoint pen was patented in 1888 by John J. Loud, but it did not work well on paper. Loud's pen was designed for leather, and it used a ball to apply ink. The pen was not successful because the ink would smear or clog, and it was not until the 1940s that the ballpoint pen became practical for everyday use. The button on the top of a baseball cap is sometimes called a squacho. This term is colloquial and not official. It is used by some in the baseball cap industry, but it is not a universal term. The button is a small piece of fabric-covered plastic that covers the point where the panels of the cap come together. It is a functional detail that prevents the cap from fraying at the top. The little pocket on jeans was originally designed for pocket watches. It dates to 1890, when Levi Strauss and Jacob Davis introduced the design. The pocket was small because pocket watches were small, and it was placed on the right side because most people were right-handed. The pocket remains on jeans today, even though few people carry pocket watches. The first sticky notes were the result of a failed attempt to create a strong adhesive. Scientists at 3M were trying to develop a super strong glue, but they created a weak one instead. The weak adhesive was reusable and would not damage surfaces, but it was not strong enough to hold things together permanently. It was not until years later that the adhesive was used to create sticky notes. The electric toaster was invented before sliced bread. Sliced bread became commercially available in 1928, but electric toasters existed in the 1890s. The first electric toaster was made in 1893 by a Scottish company, and it used a heating element to toast bread on one side at a time. Sliced bread made toasters more convenient, but toasters existed before bread was pre-sliced. The plastic rings that hold 6 packs of cans together were first introduced in the 1960s. They were originally biodegradable, but that caused issues with durability. The rings would break down in sunlight, making them less effective at holding cans together. The plastic rings we use today are not biodegradable, and they pose a risk to wildlife. There is a word for the small metal ring around the eraser on a pencil. It is called a ferrule. The ferrule holds the eraser in place, and it is made of metal. The word comes from Latin meaning bracelet or small ring, and it refers to the band that connects the eraser to the pencil. It is a small detail with a specific name. The first commercial microwave oven was 6 feet tall, weighed 750 pounds, and cost about $5,000 in 1947. It was called the Raider range, and it was used in restaurants and on ships. The microwave oven did not become a common household appliance until the 1970s, when smaller, cheaper models were introduced. The hole in the center of a donut was not invented to improve frying. The likely origin is a story about a captain who put the donut hole on the ship's wheel to keep it in place while frying, but the story is debated. The hole allows the donut to cook more evenly, but the original reason for the hole is not certain. It is a design feature that became a defining characteristic. The first commercial ballpoint pen was introduced in 1945, and it sold for $12.50. The pen was a success, and it revolutionized writing. The ballpoint pen uses a small ball bearing to spread ink on paper, and it does not require the sharpening or dipping that fountain pens require. The first known use of a button dates to about 2000 BC in the Indus Valley. The buttons were made of shell and were used as ornaments, not as fasteners. The button was used for decoration long before it was used to close clothing. The buttonhole was invented in the 13th century, allowing buttons to be used as fasteners. The first sewing machine was patented in 1846 by Elias Howe, but he faced legal battles over the patent. Other inventors had created similar machines, and Howe had to defend his patent in court. The sewing machine became a common household appliance in the late 19th century, transforming the production of clothing. The first known use of a zipper was on boots in the 1890s. The zipper was not used on clothing until the 1920s, when it was adopted for trousers and jackets. The zipper is now used on thousands of products, and it is one of the most common fastening devices in the world. The first disposable razor was invented in 1903 by King Camp Gillette. Gillette's razor used a thin blade that could be replaced, making it cheaper than earlier straight razors. The disposable razor became a standard grooming product, and it changed the way people shave. The first ballpoint pen that worked well on paper was developed by Laszlo Biro in the 1930s. Biro's pen used a thicker ink and a ball bearing that rotated freely. The pen was successful, and it became the standard writing instrument in many countries. Biro's name is still associated with the pen, and the word biro is used in some countries to refer to ballpoint pens. The first known use of Velcro was inspired by burrs that stuck to a dog's fur. The inventor of Velcro, George de Mestral, noticed that the burrs had tiny hooks that attached to the loops of the dog's fur. He developed a similar system of hooks and loops, creating the material that is now used on shoes, clothing, and other products. The first electric iron was invented in 1882 by Henry W. Seeley. The iron used a carbon arc to generate heat, and it was heavier than later irons. The electric iron became common in the 1920s, replacing the flat irons that were heated on stoves. The first safety pin was invented in 1849 by Walter Hunt. Hunt's design used a coiled spring to hold the pin in place, and it was the first pin that could be safely fastened and unfastened. The safety pin has remained largely unchanged since its invention. The first steel wire brush was invented in 1882 by the same company that invented the wire brush for cleaning dishes. The brush was made of steel wire bent into a U shape, and it was used for cleaning. The design was adapted for use in the kitchen, and it became a standard cleaning tool. The first disposable diaper was developed in the 1940s by a Swedish company. The diaper used a paper liner and an absorbent pad, and it was intended to be thrown away after use. The disposable diaper became common in the 1960s, replacing the cloth diapers that had been used for centuries. The first ballpoint pen that worked well on paper was developed in the 1930s. The pen used a thick, quick-drying ink that did not smudge. The pen became a standard writing instrument in many countries, and it is still used today. The first known use of a zipper was on boots in the 1890s. The zipper was used on clothing in the 1920s, and it became a common fastener. The zipper is used on thousands of products, and it is one of the most common fastening devices in the world. The first electric toaster was developed in the 1890s. The toaster used a heating element to toast bread, but it had to be turned by hand to toast both sides. The automatic toaster was developed in the 1920s, and it became a common household appliance. The first known use of a paperclip was in the 1890s. The paperclip was used to hold papers together, and it became a standard office supply. The design of the paperclip has remained largely unchanged since its introduction. The first known use of a button was in the Indus Valley around 2000 BC. The buttons were made of shell and were used as ornaments. The button was used as a fastener in the 13th century, and it became a common way to close clothing. The first sticky notes were developed in the 1970s. The weak adhesive was used to create notes that could be repositioned without leaving residue. The sticky note became a standard office supply, and it is used around the world. The first commercial microwave oven was introduced in the 1940s. The oven used a magnetron to generate microwaves, and it was used in restaurants and on ships. The microwave oven became common in the 1970s, and it is now found in most kitchens. The first known use of a zipper was in the 1890s. The zipper was used on boots, and it was introduced to clothing in the 1920s. The zipper is now used on thousands of products, and it is one of the most common fastening devices in the world. The first ballpoint pen was developed in the 1880s, but it did not work well on paper. The pen was improved in the 1930s, and it became a standard writing instrument. The ballpoint pen is now used around the world. The first known use of Velcro was inspired by burrs that stuck to a dog's fur. The inventor developed a system of hooks and loops, creating the material that is now used on shoes, clothing, and other products. Velcro has become a standard fastener in many industries, and that is the ordinary unknown, the things we touch without thinking, the histories we carry in our hands. Names carry history. Every word we use for something familiar has a story behind it, a path it traveled through time and across languages. The names of things are not accidents. They are records of where something came from, who used it first, or what it reminded someone of. Here are some of the quieter stories behind the names we carry. The word sandwich comes from John Montagu, the 4th Earl of Sandwich, who allegedly asked for meat between bread to avoid leaving the gambling table. He was an 18th century aristocrat who did not want to interrupt his game for a meal. The name of the earl became the name of the food, and it has been used for centuries to describe meat between bread. The dollar gets its name from the German Thaler, a silver coin minted in Joachimsthal, Bohemia. The coin was known as a Joachimsthaler, which was shortened to thaler. The word traveled through Dutch and English, becoming dollar. The name of the coin came from the name of the town where it was minted, and the town's name meant Valley of Joachim. The word salary comes from the Latin salarium, which means salt money. Roman soldiers were paid in salt, or they were given money to buy salt. Salt was a valuable commodity in the ancient world, and it was used as a form of payment. The word for salt became the word for payment, and it still carries that meaning today. The most common surname in China is Wang, with approximately 100 million people sharing it. Wang is a common Chinese surname, and it is also common in other East Asian countries. The name is often translated as king in English, but it has a different origin in Chinese. It is one of the most common surnames in the world. The term checkmate comes from the Persian phrase Shah Mat, which means, "The king is helpless." The phrase was used in chess to describe a position where the king could not escape capture. It traveled through Arabic into European languages, becoming the English checkmate. It is a term that describes the final move of a chess game. The word freelance originally referred to a medieval mercenary. A freelance was a lance for hire, a soldier who was not bound to any lord. The word combines free with lance, the weapon of a knight. Over time, the word came to mean any worker who is not employed by a single employer. The place name Texas comes from the Caddo word Taisha, meaning friend or ally. The Spanish encountered the Caddo people and wrote the word as Tejas, which was later anglicized to Texas. The name of the state is a record of the Caddo people who lived there before European contact. The word money comes from moneta, a temple in Rome where coins were minted. The temple was dedicated to Juno Moneta, but the word's origin is the mint location, not the goddess. Coins were produced in the temple, and the temple became associated with money. The word traveled from the temple to the coins to the currency we use today. The term maverick comes from Samuel Maverick, a Texas rancher in the 1800s who did not brand his cattle. His cattle were unbranded, and the word came to refer to any unbranded animal. Over time, the word came to mean an independent person, someone who does not follow the crowd. The name of a rancher became a word for individuality. The word T-shirt originally referred to the T-shape of the garment. It was first used in the 1920s, but it became popular after World War II. The garment was shaped like the letter T, with the body and sleeves forming the crossbar and the vertical. The name describes the shape of the clothing. There is a town in England called Sandwich. The name predates the food, deriving from Old English for sandy place. The town is located on the coast of Kent, and it has a sandy beach. The name of the town became the name of the food when the Earl of Sandwich popularized the concept. The word clue comes from a myth about a ball of thread used to find one's way out of a maze. The secular version is that clue originally meant a ball of thread, and it was used to describe anything that helped someone find their way. The word shifted meaning to refer to any hint or indication. The word bank comes from the Italian banca, which meant a bench. Moneylenders in Italy would sit on benches in the marketplace, and the word for their bench became the word for their business. When a lender failed, the bench was broken, giving us the word bankrupt. The word candidate comes from the Latin candidatus, which meant clothed in white. Roman candidates for office wore white togas to symbolize their purity and honesty. The word traveled from the white clothing to the person wearing it, and it became the term for someone running for office. The word salary and salad share the same root, salt. Both words come from the Latin sal, meaning salt. Salad was originally a dish of salted greens, and salary was payment in salt. The two words are linguistic cousins, both born from the same ancient commodity. The word meadow comes from Old English medway, which meant a field of grass. The word has been used in English for over 1,000 years, and it refers to a specific type of landscape. It is a pastoral word, evoking images of rural countryside. The word hundred comes from Old Norse hundrað, which meant a group of 100. The word has been used in English since the Anglo-Saxon period, and it refers to the number 100. It is a counting word, and it is used in many contexts. The word town comes from Old English tun, meaning an enclosure or a farm. The word later came to refer to a settlement, and it is used to describe a small city. The word has evolved from a description of an enclosed space to a description of a community. The word street comes from the Latin strata, meaning a paved road. The Romans built paved roads throughout their empire, and the word for the road became the word for any street. The word traveled from Latin into English, and it still refers to a paved road. The word market comes from the Latin mercatus, meaning trade or marketplace. The word has been used in English for centuries, and it refers to a place where goods are bought and sold. The word is related to merchant and mercantile, both of which involve trade. The word school comes from the Greek skole, meaning leisure or rest. The Greek word was used to describe the time when people could engage in intellectual discussion, and it later came to mean the place where learning occurred. The word shifted from leisure to learning, and it still refers to a place of education. The word library comes from the Latin liber, meaning book. The word liber also gave us liberty and liberation, but the connection is not direct. The library is a place of books, and the word describes the building that houses them. The word garden comes from the Old English geard, meaning an enclosure. The word later came to mean a place where plants are grown, and it is used to describe both public and private spaces for cultivation. The word hospital comes from the Latin hospitale, meaning guest house. The word originally referred to a place where travelers could stay, and it later came to mean a place for the sick and injured. The word is related to host and hospitable, both of which involve welcoming others. The word museum comes from the Greek mausion, meaning a temple or seat of the muses. In ancient Greece, the muses were the goddesses of the arts and sciences, and a museum was a place dedicated to learning. The word later came to mean a building for the display of collections. The word university comes from the Latin universitas, meaning a corporation or guild. The word originally referred to a body of scholars, and it later came to mean the institution where they worked. The word describes the community of learning rather than the building itself. The word city comes from the Latin civitas, meaning community or state. The word originally referred to the citizens of a city, and it later came to mean the place where they lived. The word is related to civic and civil, both of which involve citizenship. The word state comes from the Latin status, meaning condition or standing. The word originally referred to the condition of a society, and it later came to mean the political entity itself. The word describes the status of a people, not the land they occupy. The word country comes from the Latin contra, meaning opposite or against. The word originally referred to the land lying opposite a settlement, and it later came to mean the entire territory of a nation. The word describes the land beyond the city, the rural areas that surround urban centers. The word nation comes from the Latin natio, meaning birth or tribe. The word originally referred to a group of people with shared ancestry, and it later came to mean a political entity. The word describes the people of a country rather than the land itself. The word empire comes from the Latin imperium, meaning command or authority. The word originally referred to the power of a ruler, and it later came to mean the territory under that power. The word describes the rule of an emperor, not the land itself. The word republic comes from the Latin res publica, meaning public affair. The word originally referred to the common good, and it later came to mean a state where power is held by the people. The word describes the government, not the territory. The word democracy comes from the Greek demos and kratos, meaning people and power. The word originally referred to the rule of the people, and it later came to mean the system of government. The word describes the governance, not the land, and that is the names we carry. The words we use, the histories they hold, the journeys they have taken. Time is a human invention. We have divided the day into hours, the hours into minutes, the minutes into seconds. These divisions are arbitrary, but they have become essential to how we organize our lives. The measurements we use are agreements, conventions that have evolved over centuries. Here are some of the quieter facts about numbers, time, and the ways we measure. The second was originally defined as 1/86,400th of a mean solar day. That means it was based on the Earth's rotation, which is not perfectly constant. The Earth's rotation slows over time, so the definition of the second changed in 1967. It is now defined by atomic time, based on the vibrations of cesium atoms. The second is a unit that has been refined to an extraordinary precision. There are exactly 31,557,600 seconds in a standard year of 365 days. A leap year has 31,622,400 seconds because it has one extra day. The number of seconds in a year is a large number, but it can be calculated precisely. The seconds pass one by one, and they add up to the years of our lives. The 24-hour day comes from ancient Egyptian astronomy. The Egyptians divided the day and night into 12 hours each, based on the 12 months of the year. The hours were not equal in length. They varied with the seasons. The system of 24 hours was later adopted by the Greeks and Romans, and it became the standard for timekeeping. The month of February has 28 days because the Roman calendar originally had 10 months. January and February were added later, and February was given the fewest days. The calendar was reformed by Julius Caesar, who added leap years to keep the calendar aligned with the seasons. February remains the shortest month, a remnant of the calendar's early history. There is a time zone at the international dateline that is UTC plus 14. This means that places like Kiribati are 24 hours ahead of Hawaii. The time zone is one of the farthest ahead of Coordinated Universal Time. It allows countries to be on the same day as other countries despite their geographic location. The metric system was introduced in France in 1795, but it took over a century for most of the world to adopt it. The United States still uses customary units for many measurements. The metric system is based on the meter, which was originally defined as 1/10,000,000th of the distance from the equator to the North Pole. The system is decimal, making it easy to convert between units. There are 1,440 minutes in a day. That is 24 hours times 60 minutes. There are about 525,600 minutes in a year, as the musical Rent famously noted. The minutes pass one by one, and they add up to the hours and days of our lives. The concept of zero as a number was developed independently in Mesopotamia, India, and Central America. It was not a simple invention. It required the idea of nothing being a quantity. The zero was used as a placeholder in positional number systems, and it revolutionized mathematics. The zero is a concept that is both simple and profound. The 12-hour clock dates back to ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia. They used base 12 counting, which is why we have 12 inches in a foot and 12 months in a year. The 12-hour clock divides the day into 2 cycles of 12 hours, and it has been used for thousands of years. The 24-hour clock is used in many countries, but the 12-hour clock is common in others. The length of a nautical mile is based on 1 minute of latitude. It is about 6,076 feet, compared to 5,280 feet in a standard mile. The nautical mile is used in navigation, and it is based on the Earth's circumference. 1 minute of latitude is 1 nautical mile, making navigation easier at sea. There are 100 centimeters in a meter because the meter was originally defined as 1/10,000,000th of the distance from the equator to the North Pole. The meter is the base unit of length in the metric system, and it is used in most countries. The centimeter is 1/100th of a meter, a convenient subdivision for everyday measurements. The world's most accurate atomic clocks lose less than 1 second over 100 million years. They use cesium atoms, which vibrate at a very precise frequency. The clocks are used to define Coordinated Universal Time, the standard for timekeeping around the world. They are the most accurate timekeeping devices ever created. The calendar we use today is called the Gregorian calendar. It was introduced by Pope Gregory XIII's ROI in 1582 to correct errors in the Julian calendar. The calendar adds a leap day every 4 years, except in years divisible by 100 but not by 400. This keeps the calendar aligned with the seasons, and it is the most widely used calendar in the world. The year is divided into 12 months, but the months have different numbers of days. July and August both have 31 days because they were named after Roman emperors. The months were originally based on the lunar cycle, but they were adjusted to fit the solar year. The concept of the week is ancient, dating back to the Babylonians. They used a 7-day week because they observed 7 celestial bodies: the Sun, the Moon, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn. The week became a standard division of time, and it is still used today. The hour was originally divided into 60 minutes because the Babylonians used a base 60 number system. The base 60 system is also the reason we have 60 seconds in a minute. The division of the hour into 60 minutes is a remnant of the Babylonian numbering system. The day is divided into 24 hours, but the hours are not equal in length in all cultures. Some cultures divided the day into 12 hours, and others divided it into 10. The 24-hour day became standard because of the influence of the Romans and the Egyptians. The year is the time it takes for the Earth to orbit the Sun. It is about 365.24 days, which is why we need leap years. The extra 24 day is added every 4 years, keeping the calendar aligned with the seasons. The year is a natural unit of time, based on the Earth's movement. The month was originally based on the lunar cycle. A lunar month is about 29.5 days, which is why some months have 30 days and some have 31. The lunar month was replaced by the solar month, but the lunar cycle still influences the calendar. The day is the time it takes for the Earth to rotate once on its axis. It is about 24 hours, but the exact length varies slightly. The day is a natural unit of time based on the Earth's rotation. It is the most fundamental division of time. The hour was originally a twelfth of the day, and it was used by the Egyptians. The hour was later defined as 1/24 of a day, and it became the standard division. The hour is a human invention based on the division of the day into manageable units. The minute was originally defined as 1/60 of an hour, and the second was defined as 1/60 of a minute. The minute and second are based on the Babylonian base 60 system. They are subdivisions of the hour, making it easier to measure shorter intervals. The second is the base unit of time in the International System of Units. It is defined by the vibrations of cesium atoms, making it a precise and repeatable measurement. The second is used in science, navigation, and everyday life. The time zones were established in the 19th century to standardize time for railways and shipping. The world was divided into 24 time zones, each 1 hour apart. The time zones are based on the prime meridian, which runs through Greenwich, England. The prime meridian is the line of 0 degrees longitude. It was established in 1884 at the International Meridian Conference. The prime meridian is the reference point for time zones, and it is used to measure longitude. The equator is the line of 0 degrees latitude. It divides the Earth into the northern and southern hemispheres. The equator is an imaginary line, but it is a fundamental reference for geographic measurement. The Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn are lines of latitude that mark the limits of the Sun's apparent movement. They are at approximately 23.5 degrees north and south of the equator. The tropics are the regions between these lines, and they have a distinctive climate. The Arctic and Antarctic circles are lines of latitude that mark the limits of the midnight sun. They are at approximately 66.5 degrees north and south of the equator. The circles are the boundaries of the polar regions, where the sun does not set in summer and does not rise in winter. The concept of longitude was developed in the 18th century to allow ships to determine their position at sea. Longitude is measured in degrees east or west of the prime meridian. The problem of longitude was solved by the development of accurate clocks, which allowed sailors to compare local time with Greenwich time. The concept of latitude was developed earlier, and it is measured in degrees north or south of the equator. Latitude is determined by the angle of the sun or the stars above the horizon. It was easier to determine latitude than longitude, and it was used for navigation for centuries. The measurement of time has evolved from observing the sun to using atomic clocks. The methods have changed, but the goal has remained the same: to divide the day into manageable units. The second hand ticks, the minutes pass, and the days become years. And that is the second hand. The measurement of time, the divisions we have made, the numbers that structure our lives. Food is memory. Every dish has a history, an origin story, a path from its first creation to the plate in front of us. Some foods were invented by accident. Some were the result of long experimentation. Some came from entirely different cultures and were transformed along the way. Here are some of the quiet histories of the things we eat. The first potato chips were allegedly made in 1853 in Saratoga Springs, New York. A chef named George Crumb sliced potatoes thin to annoy a customer who wanted them less thick. The customer loved them, and the chips became a popular item. The story is debated, but the origin of the potato chip is commonly traced to this event. Ketchup was originally a fermented fish sauce from Southeast Asia called ketchup. It had no tomatoes. The sauce was brought to Europe by traders, and it was transformed over time into the tomato-based condiment we know today. The word ketchup is a record of its journey across the world. The popsicle was invented in 1905 when an 11-year-old named Frank Epperson left a mixture of powdered soda and water on his porch overnight with a stick in it. The temperature dropped and the mixture froze around the stick. He called it an epsicle, and he later patented it as the popsicle. It was an accidental invention that became a popular treat. Chewing gum was originally made from chicle, a sap from the sapodilla tree in Central America. It was traditionally used as a chewing material by the indigenous peoples. The sap was later commercialized as chewing gum, and it became a popular product. The modern gum we use is often made from synthetic materials, but the tradition of chewing chicle is ancient. The fortune cookie was invented in California, not China. The exact origin is debated, but it appears in the early 20th century in Japanese-American bakeries. The cookies were based on a Japanese tradition of placing fortunes in crackers. They became associated with Chinese restaurants in the United States, and they are now a standard part of the American Chinese dining experience. The first chocolate bar was made in 1847 by J.S. Fry & Sons in Bristol, England. They mixed cocoa butter, sugar, and chocolate liquor into a paste. This mixture could be molded into bars, and it became the first solid chocolate bar. Chocolate had been consumed as a beverage for centuries, but the bar made it portable. The word cereal comes from a Roman word for grain. The secular origin is the grain itself, not any mythological reference. Cereal is a food made from processed grains, and it has been eaten for thousands of years. The modern breakfast cereal is a recent invention, but the word itself is ancient. The first breakfast cereal was invented in the 1860s by James Caleb Jackson. It was called granula, and was made from whole grain flour and required overnight soaking. It was a healthy food, and it was intended to be a convenient breakfast. Granula was the precursor to the many breakfast cereals that followed. There is a type of cheese called Munster that is not from Munster, Germany. It was developed by German immigrants in Wisconsin. They adapted the recipe to local conditions, and the cheese became known as Munster. It is named after the German city, but it is a distinctly American cheese. The ice cream sundae was invented in the 19th century. The story goes that it was served on a Sunday to avoid the blue laws that prohibited ice cream sodas on the Sabbath. The name stuck, and the sundae became a popular dessert. The exact origin is debated, but the name is tied to the day of the week. The first frozen pizza was sold in the 1950s, but it did not become popular until the 1960s, when pizza chains expanded. The frozen pizza was a convenience food, and it became a staple of American households. It is now available in many varieties, and it is one of the most popular frozen foods. Bananas are technically berries. The banana plant is not a tree. It is an herb. The banana is a fruit that grows on a herbaceous plant, and it is one of the most popular fruits in the world. The botanical classification is different from the common understanding, but it is scientifically accurate. The first microwave popcorn was developed in the 1940s, but it did not become popular until the 1970s. The popcorn was packaged in a bag that could be microwaved, and it became a convenient snack. The microwave oven made it possible to popcorn at home, and it became a popular food. The first known use of a fork in Europe was in the 11th century. The fork was brought to Europe by a Byzantine princess, and it was used for eating. The fork was not widely adopted until the 16th century, and it became a standard eating utensil. The first known use of chopsticks was in ancient China. They were used for cooking and eating, and they spread to other East Asian countries. Chopsticks are one of the oldest eating utensils, and they are still used by billions of people. The first known use of a spoon was in ancient Egypt. Spoons were made from wood, bone, and metal, and they were used for eating and serving. The spoon is a simple utensil, and it has been used for thousands of years. The first known use of a knife for eating was in ancient Rome. The knife was used to cut food, and it was later used for eating. The knife is a versatile tool, and it is used in many cultures for eating and cooking. The first known use of a napkin was in ancient Rome. Napkins were used to wipe hands and face, and they were made from cloth. The napkin is a simple accessory, and it has been used for centuries. The first known use of a tablecloth was in ancient Rome. Tablecloths were used to protect the table, and they were made from cloth. The tablecloth is a common household item, and it has been used for centuries. The first known use of a plate was in ancient Egypt. Plates were made from clay, and they were used for eating. The plate is a simple item, and it has been used for thousands of years. The first known use of a bowl was in ancient Egypt. Bowls were used for eating and serving, and they were made from clay. The bowl is a versatile item, and it is used in many cultures for eating and cooking. The first known use of a cup was in ancient Egypt. Cups were used for drinking, and they were made from clay and metal. The cup is a simple item, and it has been used for thousands of years. The first known use of a glass for drinking was in ancient Egypt. Glasses were made from glass, and they were used for drinking water and wine. The glass is a common item, and it has been used for centuries. The first known use of a pitcher was in ancient Egypt. Pitchers were used for serving drinks, and they were made from clay and glass. The pitcher is a simple item, and it has been used for thousands of years. The first known use of a teapot was in China. Teapots were used for serving tea, and they were made from clay and porcelain. The teapot is a common item, and it has been used for centuries. The first known use of a coffee pot was in the Middle East. Coffee pots were used for serving coffee, and they were made from metal and clay. The coffee pot is a common item, and it has been used for centuries. The first known use of a kettle was in China. Kettles were used for boiling water, and they were made from metal and clay. The kettle is a common item, and it has been used for centuries. The first known use of a pan was in ancient Egypt. Pans were used for cooking, and they were made from metal and clay. The pan is a common item, and it has been used for thousands of years. The first known use of a pot was in ancient Egypt. Pots were used for cooking and storage, and they were made from clay. The pot is a common item, and it has been used for thousands of years. The first known use of a spatula was in ancient Egypt. Spatulas were used for cooking and serving, and they were made from wood and metal. The spatula is a common item, and it has been used for thousands of years. The first known use of a whisk was in ancient Egypt. Whisks were used for mixing, and they were made from wood and metal. The whisk is a common item, and it has been used for thousands of years. And that is the things we ate, the histories of food, the inventions and accidents that brought meals to our tables. Records are not always about being the biggest or the fastest. Some records are quiet. They are about the first time something happened, or the last time something existed, or the only example of something unusual. These are not the records that make headlines. They are the gentle superlatives, the small distinctions that are true, but not attention-grabbing. Here are some of the quieter records. The first photograph of a person was taken in 1838 by Louis Daguerre. The photograph shows a man getting his shoes shined on a Paris street. He is visible because he stood still long enough for the exposure. The street is otherwise empty because the exposure time was too long to capture moving people. The image is a record of a single moment in a quiet street. The last known passenger pigeon died in 1914 at the Cincinnati Zoo. Her name was Martha. The passenger pigeon was once one of the most common birds in North America, but it was hunted to extinction. Martha was the last of her kind, and she died in captivity. Her death marked the end of a species. The only U.S. president to serve more than 2 terms was Franklin D. Roosevelt. He was elected 4 times, serving from 1933 to 1945. The 22nd Amendment was later passed to limit presidents to 2 terms. Roosevelt's presidency was an exception to the rule, and it changed the way the office is held. The first known written recipe dates to about 1700 BC in Mesopotamia. It was for a beer. The recipe was written on a clay tablet, and it described how to brew beer using barley and other ingredients. The recipe is one of the oldest known documents, and it shows that beer was an important part of ancient life. The first patent for a telephone was filed by Alexander Graham Bell in 1876. He beat Elisha Gray by only a few hours. The patent was filed on the same day, but Bell's application was received first. The telephone became one of the most important inventions of the 19th century, and Bell is remembered as its inventor. The last person to be executed in the Tower of London was a German spy in 1941. His name was Joseph Jacobs, and he was shot by a firing squad. The Tower of London had been used for executions for centuries, but Jacobs was the last person to die there. The execution was carried out during World War II. The only country with no official language at the national level is the United States. Many states have official languages, but the federal government has never declared one. English is the de facto language, but it is not the official language. The United States is one of the few countries without an official language. The first public zoo in the United States was the Philadelphia Zoo, opened in 1874. The zoo was established to display animals for education and entertainment. It was one of the first zoos in the country, and it set a precedent for other zoos. The Philadelphia Zoo is still open today. The first email was sent by Ray Tomlinson in 1971. He sent it to himself on a network called ARPANET. The email was a test message, and it was not particularly meaningful. Tomlinson is credited with inventing email, and his first message was a milestone in communication. The last known wild passenger pigeon was shot in 1900. The species had declined rapidly due to hunting and habitat loss. The wild population was gone by the early 20th century, and only a few birds remained in captivity. Martha was the last of her kind. The only Major League Baseball player to have his number retired by all teams is Jackie Robinson. His number, 42, was retired by all teams in 1997. Robinson broke the color barrier in baseball, and his number is a tribute to his legacy. It is the only number retired by every team in the league. The first known female physician in ancient Egypt was called Pesachet. She lived around 2500 BC. She is one of the earliest known female physicians, and she practiced medicine in the royal court. Her name is recorded in ancient texts, and she is remembered as a pioneering woman. The first known use of a camera was in the 19th century. The camera obscura had been known for centuries, but the first photograph was taken in the 1820s. The photograph was a permanent image, and it was a milestone in the history of visual media. The last known dodo bird died in the 17th century. The dodo was a flightless bird that lived on the island of Mauritius. It was extinct by 1681, less than 200 years after it was first discovered. The dodo became a symbol of extinction caused by human activity. The only known species of mammal that can fly is the bat. Bats are the only mammals with powered flight, and they are found on every continent except Antarctica. They use echolocation to navigate and hunt, and they are an important part of many ecosystems. The bat is a unique mammal, and it is the only one that can fly. The first known use of a compass was in China in the 11th century. The compass was used for navigation, and it was a significant technological advance. The compass allowed sailors to determine direction, and it made long sea voyages possible. The last known Tasmanian tiger died in 1936 at the Hobart Zoo in Australia. The Tasmanian tiger was a carnivorous marsupial that was hunted to extinction. Its name was a misnomer, as it was not a tiger. The species was declared extinct in the 1980s. The only country that spans all 4 hemispheres is Kiribati. The country is located in the Pacific Ocean, and its islands are spread across the equator and the international dateline. This puts some islands in the northern, southern, eastern, and western hemispheres. The first known use of a printing press was in China in the 9th century. The press was used to print texts, and it was a precursor to the printing press that Gutenberg developed in Europe. The printing press revolutionized the spread of information. The last known quagga died in 1883 at the Amsterdam Zoo. The quagga was a subspecies of the plains zebra, and it was hunted to extinction. It was distinct in that it had stripes on the front half of its body, but not on the back half. The quagga is a reminder of the vulnerability of species. The only known species of bird that can fly backward is the hummingbird. Hummingbirds can hover and fly in any direction, including backward. They are the only birds with this ability, and it allows them to feed from flowers in a way that other birds cannot. The first known use of a seismograph was in China in the 2nd century. The seismograph was used to detect earthquakes, and it was an early instrument for measuring seismic activity. The seismograph was a technological innovation that allowed people to detect earthquakes from a distance. The last known Dutch elm disease survivor is a tree in the United Kingdom. The disease has killed millions of elm trees, but a few have survived. The survivors are being studied to understand their resistance to the disease. The only known species of reptile that can change color is the chameleon. Chameleons are known for their ability to change color, which they use for communication and camouflage. They are not the only reptiles that can change color, but they are the most famous. The first known use of a radio was in the 19th century. The radio was used for communication, and it was a significant advance in technology. Radio allowed people to communicate over long distances without wires, and it became an essential part of modern life. The last known dodo bird was seen in the 17th century. The bird was hunted to extinction, and it is now a symbol of human-caused extinction. The dodo was a flightless bird that lived on the island of Mauritius. The only known species of animal that can regenerate its brain is the sea squirt. The sea squirt is a marine animal that can regenerate its brain after it has been damaged. This ability is rare among animals, and it has been studied for its potential applications in medicine. The first known use of a thermometer was in the 17th century. The thermometer was used to measure temperature, and it was a significant advance in science. The thermometer allowed scientists to measure temperature accurately, and it became an essential tool in many fields. The last known great auk died in 1844. The great auk was a flightless bird that lived in the North Atlantic. It was hunted for its feathers, meat, and eggs, and it was driven to extinction. The great auk was the first bird to become extinct in modern times. The only known species of primate that is fully bipedal is the human. Humans are the only primates that walk upright on two legs as their primary means of locomotion. This adaptation has allowed humans to use their hands for tools and other activities. The first known use of a telescope was in the 17th century. The telescope was used to observe the stars and planets, and it was a significant advance in astronomy. The telescope allowed astronomers to see distant objects that were not visible to the naked eye. The last known Steller's sea cow died in 1768. The Steller's sea cow was a large marine mammal that lived in the Bering Sea. It was hunted for its meat and blubber, and it was extinct within 30 years of its discovery. The Steller's sea cow is a reminder of the impact of human hunting. The only known species of frog that can freeze and survive is the wood frog. The wood frog can survive temperatures below freezing by producing a natural antifreeze that protects its cells. The frog can thaw and resume normal function when the temperature rises. And that is the quiet records, the firsts, the lasts, the onlys. Animals live alongside us, often unnoticed. They have their own behaviors, their own routines, their own ways of being in the world. Some are familiar, some are strange, and some have habits that are quietly surprising. Here are some of the quieter facts about the creatures that share the planet with us. The average house cat sleeps about 16 hours per day. That is 2/3 of its life. Cats are crepuscular. meaning they are most active at dawn and dusk. They spend the rest of their time resting, conserving energy for hunting. The cat's life is one of long naps punctuated by short bursts of activity. The heart of a blue whale weighs about 1,300 pounds. It is the size of a small car. The blue whale is the largest animal ever to have lived, and its heart is proportionally large. The heart beats slowly, about 8 to 10 times per minute, and it pumps blood through the whale's massive body. A group of flamingos is called a flamboyance. The term entered English in the 20th century, and it describes the colorful appearance of a flock of flamingos. The word is fitting, as flamingos are known for their bright pink or orange plumage. The collective noun is one of the more poetic terms in the English language. Horses and cows can sleep while standing up, but they only experience REM sleep when lying down. REM sleep is the stage of sleep associated with dreaming, and it requires the muscles to relax completely. Horses and cows can doze while standing, but they must lie down to get deep sleep. They do not need much deep sleep, but they do need some. The tongue of a blue whale weighs as much as an elephant. It is about 6,000 pounds. The tongue is used to filter food from the water, and it is an essential part of the whale's feeding apparatus. The blue whale's tongue is one of the largest organs in the animal kingdom. There is a type of jellyfish called Turritopsis dohrnii that can revert to its juvenile form after maturing. It is biologically immortal. The jellyfish can transform its cells back to an earlier stage of development, effectively resetting its life cycle. It does not die of old age, though it can still be killed by predators or disease. The lifespan of a housefly is about 28 days. The exact duration depends on temperature and food availability. Flies develop quickly, from egg to adult in about 10 days. They live for a few weeks, reproducing and then dying. The fly's life is short, but it is intense. A group of crows is called a murder. The term dates to the 15th century and probably refers to folk beliefs about crows. Crows were associated with death and ill omens, and the collective noun reflects that association. The term has persisted, even though crows are not particularly dangerous. The cheetah is the only big cat that cannot roar. It purrs instead. Cheetahs have a different vocal structure from other big cats, which prevents them from roaring. They communicate through chirps, hisses, and purrs. The cheetah is a unique cat, and its vocalizations are one of its distinguishing features. There are about 10,000 species of birds in the world. About half of them sing. Songbirds, or passerines, are the group that produces the most complex vocalizations. They use song to attract mates and defend territory. The other half of bird species do not sing. They call, chirp, or make other sounds. The sloth moves so slowly that algae can grow on its fur. The algae provide camouflage, making the sloth less visible to predators. The sloth's slow movement is an adaptation to its diet of leaves, which provide little energy. The algae are a side effect of its slow pace. The horn of a rhinoceros is not bone. It is made of keratin, the same protein as human hair and nails. The horn grows continuously, and it is used for defense and foraging. The rhino's horn is a remarkable structure, made of the same material as our own hair and nails. The elephant is the largest land animal. It can weigh up to 14,000 pounds and stand up to 13 feet tall. Elephants are known for their intelligence and social behavior. They live in family groups led by a matriarch, and they communicate over long distances. The giraffe is the tallest land animal. It can reach up to 18 feet tall. The giraffe's neck is about 6 feet long, and it has the same number of neck vertebrae as a human, 7. The vertebrae are elongated, allowing the giraffe to reach high branches. The dolphin is one of the most intelligent animals. It can recognize itself in a mirror, a sign of self-awareness. Dolphins communicate through clicks and whistles, and they live in social groups. They are known for their playful behavior and their ability to learn. The octopus is one of the most intelligent invertebrates. It can solve puzzles, open jars, and escape from enclosures. The octopus has a complex nervous system, and it is capable of remarkable feats of problem-solving. Its intelligence is one of the wonders of the animal kingdom. The bee is essential for pollination. About 1/3 of the food we eat depends on pollination by bees. Bees collect nectar and pollen, and in the process they transfer pollen from one flower to another. The bee's role in the ecosystem is critical. The ant is one of the most successful insects. There are about 10,000 species of ants, and they live in colonies that can number millions of individuals. Ants are social insects, and they work together to build nests, find food, and care for their young. The termite is a social insect that lives in colonies. Termites are known for their ability to digest wood, which they do with the help of microorganisms in their gut. They build large mounds that can be seen from a distance. Termites are important decomposers in many ecosystems. The spider is an arachnid, not an insect. It has 8 legs and 2 body segments. Spiders produce silk, which they use to build webs, catch prey, and protect their eggs. Spider silk is one of the strongest materials in the world. The snake is a reptile that has no legs. Snakes have evolved from lizards that lost their limbs. They use their muscles and scales to move, and they are found on every continent except Antarctica. Some snakes are venomous, and they use venom to capture prey. The turtle is a reptile that has a shell. The shell is made of bone and is fused to the turtle's skeleton. Turtles can retract their heads and limbs into the shell for protection. They are found in many habitats, including water and land. The lizard is a reptile that has legs and a long tail. There are about 6,000 species of lizards, and they are found on every continent except Antarctica. Lizards are diverse, and they have adapted to many different environments. The crocodile is a large reptile that lives in water. Crocodiles have a powerful bite, and they are efficient predators. They have been around for millions of years, and they are one of the oldest groups of reptiles. Crocodiles are known for their patience and their ability to wait for prey. The bird is a warm-blooded vertebrate that has feathers. Birds are the only animals with feathers, which they use for flight, insulation, and display. There are about 10,000 species of birds, and they are found on every continent. The fish is a cold-blooded vertebrate that lives in water. Fish have scales and gills, and they breathe through their gills. There are about 30,000 species of fish, and they are the most diverse group of vertebrates. The shark is a fish that has a cartilaginous skeleton. Sharks are found in oceans around the world, and they are one of the oldest groups of animals. They are known for their sharp teeth and their ability to sense prey from a distance. The whale is a marine mammal that lives in the ocean. Whales are warm-blooded and breathe air. They are the largest animals on Earth, and they are found in all the world's oceans. Whales are known for their intelligence and their complex social behavior. The dolphin is a marine mammal that is closely related to whales. Dolphins are known for their intelligence and their playful behavior. They live in social groups, and they communicate through clicks and whistles. The seal is a marine mammal that lives in the ocean. Seals have flippers and are adapted for swimming. They spend much of their time in the water, but they come onto land to rest and breed. Seals are found in oceans around the world. The sea lion is a marine mammal that is closely related to seals. Sea lions have ear flaps and can walk on their flippers. They are found on the coasts of the Pacific Ocean, and they are known for their playful behavior. The walrus is a marine mammal that lives in the Arctic. Walruses have long tusks that they use for defense and for moving on ice. They are social animals, and they live in large groups. Walruses are one of the largest pinnipeds. The polar bear is a marine mammal that lives in the Arctic. Polar bears are the largest land carnivores, and they depend on sea ice for hunting. They are adapted to the cold, with thick fur and a layer of blubber. And that is the animals among us. The creatures that share the planet, each with its own quiet habits. History is often told as a story of major events, but there are also the quiet footnotes, the things that almost happened, the things that happened but were forgotten, the things that are true but feel false. These are the overlooked details, the small moments that shaped larger events in ways we rarely consider. Here are some of the quieter footnotes of history. The Great Fire of London in 1666 destroyed 13,200 houses but killed only 6 people. The death toll is remarkably low for such a large fire. The fire spread quickly through the wooden buildings of the city, but most people escaped. The 6 confirmed deaths are a testament to the efficiency of the evacuation. The first recorded use of the word hello as a greeting was in 1827. The word was used in letters to attract attention. It became popular with the invention of the telephone, when it was used as a way to answer a call. The word has become a standard greeting, but it has a relatively recent history. Cleopatra lived closer in time to the moon landing than to the construction of the Great Pyramid of Giza. The pyramid was built around 2560 BC, and Cleopatra lived around 30 BC. The moon landing was in 1969 AD. The time between Cleopatra and the moon landing is about 2,000 years, while the time between the pyramid and Cleopatra is about 2,500 years. The distances are comparable. The town of Pripyat, near Chernobyl, was evacuated in 1986. It remains a ghost town, but wildlife has returned. The town was abandoned after the nuclear accident, and it has been left to nature. The buildings are decaying, and the streets are overgrown. Wildlife has flourished in the absence of humans. The Titanic had 20 lifeboats, but the regulations required only 16. The extra 4 were added as a precaution. The lifeboats could carry about 1,178 people, but the ship had about 2,200 passengers and crew. The shortage of lifeboats was a contributing factor to the high death toll. The first known use of the phrase, "the whole 9 yards," is unclear. It likely refers to the length of a machine gun belt in Wii, but this is debated. The origin of the phrase is unknown, and it is one of the many expressions whose etymology has been lost. The first successful parachute jump was made in 1797 by André-Jacques Garnerin. He jumped from a hot air balloon, not an airplane. The parachute was made of silk, and it was attached to a basket. Garnerin descended safely, and he became the first person to make a successful parachute jump. The Spanish flu of 1918 infected about 1/3 of the world's population. The exact death toll is estimated between 50 and 100 million. The pandemic was one of the deadliest in history, and it affected people of all ages. It is called the Spanish flu, but it did not originate in Spain. The first known mention of a lemon in English dates to the 14th century. The word came from the Arabic laymun, through Persian. The lemon was known in the Middle East and Asia before it was introduced to Europe. The word is a record of the lemon's journey to the West. The shortest war in history lasted about 38 minutes. The Anglo-Zanzibar War of 1896 is often cited as the shortest war, though the exact duration is disputed. The war was fought between Britain and the Sultanate of Zanzibar. The British won quickly, and the war was over in less than an hour. There was a proposal in the 18th century to adopt a universal language called Volapük. It failed, but Esperanto later succeeded to some extent. Volapük was developed by a German priest, and it was designed to be easy to learn. It was popular for a time, but it did not survive. Esperanto was developed later, and it is still used by a small community. The first known human-made mirror was made from polished obsidian in Anatolia. It dates to about 6000 BC. The mirror was a piece of volcanic glass that was polished to a reflective surface. It was used for personal grooming and rituals. The mirror is one of the oldest known human artifacts. The Roman Empire was not the first empire in history. The Akkadian Empire, founded by Sargon of Akkad, predates it by about 2,000 years. The Akkadian Empire was the first empire in history, and it set a precedent for the empires that followed. The first known use of a coin was in the Kingdom of Lydia in the 7th century BC. The coins were made of electrum, a natural alloy of gold and silver. The coins were stamped with images, and they were used for trade. The coin was a significant innovation in commerce. The first known use of a map was in ancient Babylon. The map was made on a clay tablet, and it showed the city of Babylon and the surrounding region. The map is one of the oldest known maps, and it dates to about 600 BC. The first known use of a calendar was in ancient Egypt. The Egyptians used a solar calendar with 12 months of 30 days, with an extra 5 days at the end of the year. The calendar was used to track the seasons and the annual flooding of the Nile. The Egyptian calendar was one of the first systematic calendars. The first known use of writing was in Mesopotamia, around 3400 BC. The writing was cuneiform, which used wedge-shaped marks on clay tablets. Cuneiform was used for record-keeping, and it was the first known writing system. The invention of writing was a milestone in human history. The first known use of a wheel was in Mesopotamia, around 3500 BC. The wheel was used for pottery, not for transportation. It was later used for chariots, and it revolutionized travel and trade. The wheel is one of the most important inventions in history. The first known use of a metal was copper. Copper was used in the Neolithic period, and it was the first metal to be worked by humans. The use of copper marked the beginning of the Metal Age, and it was followed by the use of bronze and iron. The first known use of a plow was in Mesopotamia, around 4000 BC. The plow was used for agriculture, and it made farming more efficient. The plow allowed people to cultivate larger areas of land, and it contributed to the growth of civilization. The first known use of a sail was in ancient Egypt. Sails were used on boats that traveled on the Nile. The sail allowed boats to travel against the wind, and it made transportation easier. The sail is one of the most important inventions in maritime history. The first known use of a sword was in the Bronze Age. The sword was made of bronze, and it was used for fighting. The sword was a more effective weapon than earlier weapons, and it became a symbol of power and status. The first known use of a bow and arrow was in the Paleolithic period. The bow was used for hunting, and it allowed people to hunt from a distance. The bow and arrow was one of the most important hunting tools in history. The first known use of a spear was in the Paleolithic period. The spear was used for hunting and fighting, and it was one of the earliest weapons. The spear was simple but effective, and it was used for thousands of years. The first known use of a shield was in the Bronze Age. The shield was used for protection in battle, and it was made of wood or metal. The shield was an important piece of armor, and it allowed soldiers to protect themselves from enemy weapons. The first known use of armor was in the Bronze Age. Armor was made of metal, and it was used to protect the body in battle. Armor was heavy, but it provided effective protection. It was used by soldiers in many ancient civilizations. The first known use of a helmet was in the Bronze Age. Helmets were made of metal, and they were used to protect the head in battle. Helmets were essential for soldiers, and they were used in many ancient armies. The first known use of a wheeled vehicle was in Mesopotamia, around 3000 BC. The wheeled vehicle was used for transportation, and it was a significant advance in technology. The wheeled vehicle allowed people to travel farther and carry more goods. The first known use of a road was in ancient Mesopotamia. The roads were used for travel and trade, and they connected cities and regions. Roads were an important infrastructure for civilization, and they allowed people to move more easily. The first known use of a bridge was in ancient Mesopotamia. Bridges were used to cross rivers, and they were made of wood and stone. Bridges were important for travel and trade, and they allowed people to move more easily. The first known use of a canal was in ancient Egypt. Canals were used for irrigation and transportation, and they were an important part of the agricultural system. Canals allowed people to move water from rivers to fields, and they made farming possible in arid regions. The first known use of a dam was in ancient Egypt. Dams were used to control the flow of water, and they were used for irrigation and flood control. Dams were an important part of the agricultural system, and they allowed people to manage the water supply. The first known use of a lighthouse was in ancient Egypt. The Pharos of Alexandria was one of the most famous lighthouses in history. It was used to guide ships into the harbor, and it was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. And that is the things that didn't happen. the quiet footnotes, the overlooked details, the events that are true but feel like they shouldn't be. Above us there is a vast expanse. The sky stretches beyond what we can see into the depths of space. There are stars, planets, and the layers of the atmosphere that surround the Earth. These are the things that exist above us, silent and distant, following their own patterns. Here are some of the quieter facts about space, stars, and the atmosphere. The Sun is about 93 million miles from Earth. This distance is known as an astronomical unit, or AU. The AU is the standard measure for distances within the solar system. It is a convenient unit for describing the scale of our planetary neighborhood. The Sun's light travels this distance in about 8 minutes. The Moon moves about 1.5 inches away from Earth every year. This is due to tidal forces that transfer energy from Earth's rotation to the Moon's orbit. Eventually, the Moon will take about 47 days to orbit Earth. The Moon is slowly drifting away, and the length of the day is increasing. There are more stars in the observable universe than grains of sand on all Earth's beaches. The number is approximately 10 squared stars. That is a 1 followed by 22 zeros. The universe is vast, and the number of stars is almost incomprehensible. Each star is a sun, and many have their own planets. The surface temperature of the Sun is about 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit. The core is about 27 million degrees Fahrenheit. The Sun's energy comes from nuclear fusion, which converts hydrogen into helium. The heat from the core travels outward to the surface, where it is radiated into space. The planet with the most moons in our solar system is Saturn. It has 146 confirmed moons as of 2024. The moons vary in size, from tiny fragments to Titan, which is larger than Mercury. Saturn's moons are a diverse collection, and they are still being discovered. A day on Venus is longer than a year on Venus. Venus rotates once every 243 Earth days, and it orbits the Sun every 225 Earth days. This makes the Venusian day longer than its year. Venus rotates in the opposite direction from most planets, a phenomenon known as retrograde rotation. The atmosphere of Earth is about 78% nitrogen and 21% oxygen. The remaining 1% is argon and other gases. This composition is unique in the solar system. The atmosphere protects life on Earth by blocking harmful radiation and regulating temperature. It is a thin layer of gas that makes life possible. There is no sound in space, because sound requires a medium to travel through. The vacuum of space does not carry sound waves. In space, no one can hear you scream. Sound cannot travel through empty space, so space is completely silent. The temperature of space is about minus 454 degrees Fahrenheit. This is just above absolute zero. The vacuum of space is cold, and it is one of the harshest environments in the universe. The absence of matter makes it difficult to retain heat. The Great Red Spot on Jupiter is a storm larger than Earth. It has been observed for over 400 years. The storm is a high-pressure system that rotates counterclockwise. It is one of the most distinctive features of Jupiter's atmosphere. The light from the Sun takes about 8 minutes and 20 seconds to reach Earth. This time is known as an astronomical unit of time. The light travels at 186,000 miles per second, covering the 93 million miles in about 500 seconds. The sunlight we see is 8 minutes old. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter contains millions of objects. The total mass of the asteroid belt is less than that of Earth's moon. The objects range in size from dust particles to the dwarf planet Ceres. The asteroid belt is a remnant of the early solar system. The Milky Way is the galaxy that contains our solar system. It is a barred spiral galaxy, and it contains about 100 to 400 billion stars. The Milky Way is about 100,000 light-years across, and it is one of billions of galaxies in the observable universe. The Andromeda Galaxy is the closest spiral galaxy to the Milky Way. It is about 2.5 million light-years away. The Andromeda Galaxy is on a collision course with the Milky Way, and they will merge in about 4.5 billion years. The collision will create a new galaxy. A light year is the distance that light travels in 1 year. It is about 5.88 trillion miles. The light year is a measure of distance, not time. It is used to describe the immense distances between stars and galaxies. The speed of light is 186,282 miles per second. It is the fastest speed in the universe. Nothing can travel faster than light. The speed of light is a fundamental constant of physics. The Earth's magnetic field protects the planet from solar wind. The magnetic field is generated by the motion of molten iron in the Earth's core. The magnetic field extends into space and deflects charged particles from the sun. Without it, life on Earth would be exposed to harmful radiation. The ozone layer is a region of high ozone concentration in the stratosphere. It absorbs most of the sun's ultraviolet radiation. The ozone layer is essential for life on Earth, and it has been damaged by human activities. The hole in the ozone layer is gradually recovering. The International Space Station orbits Earth at an altitude of about 250 miles. It travels at a speed of about 17,500 miles per hour. The space station completes an orbit every 90 minutes. It is a laboratory for scientific research in microgravity. The first human-made object to reach space was the German V2 rocket in 1942. The rocket reached an altitude of about 60 miles. The V2 was a weapon, but it also paved the way for space exploration. The first satellite, Sputnik 1, was launched in 1957. The first human to orbit Earth was Yuri Gagarin in 1961. He orbited Earth once in 108 minutes. Gagarin's flight was a milestone in space exploration. He became a hero in the Soviet Union, and his name is remembered in the history of spaceflight. The first person to walk on the moon was Neil Armstrong in 1969. He stepped onto the lunar surface and said, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." The Apollo 11 mission was a triumph of human achievement. The lunar module landed on the moon, and Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walked on the surface. The moon has no atmosphere, so there is no weather. The surface of the moon is covered with craters from meteorite impacts. The lack of atmosphere means that temperatures vary greatly between day and night. The moon is a barren world, and it is the only other body in the solar system that humans have visited. The planet Mars has a thin atmosphere composed mostly of carbon dioxide. The surface of Mars is cold and dry, and it has a reddish color due to iron oxide. Mars has the largest volcano in the solar system, Olympus Mons, which is about 13 miles high. Mars has been explored by rovers and orbiters. The planet Jupiter is the largest planet in the solar system. It is about 11 times the diameter of Earth. Jupiter is a gas giant, composed mostly of hydrogen and helium. It has a faint ring system and dozens of moons. Jupiter's Great Red Spot is a storm that has lasted for centuries. The planet Saturn is known for its prominent ring system. The rings are composed of ice and rock particles. Saturn is about 9 times the diameter of Earth, and it is the least dense planet. Saturn's rings are one of the most recognizable features in the solar system. The planet Uranus is an ice giant with a blue-green color. It rotates on its side, with an axial tilt of about 98 degrees. Uranus has a faint ring system and 27 known moons. It is the coldest planet in the solar system. The planet Neptune is the farthest planet from the Sun. It is an ice giant with a blue color. Neptune has a faint ring system and 16 known moons. It is the windiest planet, with wind speeds that can reach 1,200 miles per hour. The dwarf planet Pluto was reclassified in 2006. It is no longer considered a planet. Pluto is a small, cold world in the Kuiper Belt. It has 5 known moons, with the largest being Charon. Pluto's reclassification was controversial, but it is now recognized as a dwarf planet. The Kuiper Belt is a region of the solar system beyond Neptune. It contains many small, icy bodies. The Kuiper Belt is the source of many comets. Pluto is one of the largest objects in the Kuiper Belt. The Oort cloud is a spherical cloud of icy bodies that surrounds the solar system. It is the source of long-period comets. The Oort cloud is far beyond the Kuiper belt, and it has never been directly observed. It is a distant reservoir of material from the early solar system. The solar system is about 4.6 billion years old. It formed from a cloud of gas and dust. The sun formed in the center, and the planets formed from the surrounding disk. The solar system is a part of the Milky Way galaxy, which is about 13.6 billion years old. The universe is about 13.8 billion years old. The Big Bang Theory describes the origin of the universe. The universe is expanding, and it has been expanding since its beginning. The expansion is accelerating, and the universe is thought to be infinite, or at least much larger than the observable universe. And that is the sky above, the vast expanse of space, the stars, the planets, the layers of atmosphere that protect us. Laws are agreements. They are rules that societies have made to govern behavior, to resolve disputes, to maintain order. Some laws are ancient, some are recent, and some are peculiar. They exist on the books, even if they are never enforced. Here are some of the quieter curiosities of the rules we made. It is illegal in France to name a pig Napoleon. This law is often cited, though it is not actually enforced, and may be apocryphal. The law is said to have been enacted to protect the reputation of Napoleon Bonaparte. Whether it is a real law or not, it has become a piece of legal folklore. There is a law in the United Kingdom that allows a pregnant woman to relieve herself in a police officer's hat. This is an urban legend, not a real law. The story has been circulated for years, but there is no basis for it in UK law. It is one of many apocryphal laws that persist in popular culture. In the United States, there is no federal law requiring a citizen to have an ID. States require them for driving and voting, but there is no national ID card. The absence of a federal ID is a reflection of the country's federal system. Each state issues its own identification documents. The legal term alibi comes from Latin meaning elsewhere. It has been used in English since the 18th century. An alibi is a defense in which the accused claims to have been elsewhere at the time of the crime. The word describes the location of the accused, and it is a key concept in criminal law. In Switzerland, it is illegal to own just one guinea pig. They are social animals and must have a companion. The law reflects the Swiss commitment to animal welfare. Guinea pigs are social creatures, and they can suffer if they are isolated. The law is designed to prevent that suffering. There is a law in Florida that prohibits unmarried women from parachuting on Sundays. The law is antiquated and unenforced. It is one of many outdated laws that remain on the books. The law was likely intended to protect women from dangerous activities, but it is no longer taken seriously. The first known law code was the Code of Ur-Nammu, written in Mesopotamia around 2100 BC. It predates the Code of Hammurabi by about 300 years. The Code of Ur-Nammu established rules for civil and criminal matters. It is one of the earliest examples of written law. In the United Kingdom, the Magna Carta of 1215 established that no one is above the law. Originally, it applied only to freemen, but it has become a symbol of the rule of law. The Magna Carta was a landmark document in English history, and it influenced the development of constitutional law. There is a law in Italy that requires all espresso to be priced at a maximum of about 1.110. This is more of a social agreement than a strict law. The price of espresso is regulated to ensure that it remains affordable for Italians. The law reflects the importance of espresso in Italian culture. In Japan, the legal drinking age is 20. It was raised to 20 in 1922 and has not changed. The drinking age is one of the highest in the world. The law reflects the cultural importance of the age of majority in Japan. The first known copyright law was the Statute of Anne in 1710. It gave authors rights to their work for 14 years. The statute recognized the rights of authors, and it was the first modern copyright law. It established the principle that authors should be compensated for their work. There is a law in New York that bans the sale of pets in pet stores. The law was passed in 2022 to limit puppy mills. It is designed to discourage the inhumane breeding of dogs and cats. The law is one of many animal welfare laws in the United States. There is a law in California that prohibits the use of a car horn for any purpose other than warning of danger. The law is intended to reduce noise pollution. It is one of many traffic laws that regulate the use of vehicles. There is a law in Germany that requires drivers to carry a first aid kit in their car. The law is designed to ensure that drivers can provide basic medical assistance in an emergency. The kit must be kept in the car and must be accessible. There is a law in Singapore that prohibits the importation of chewing gum. The law was enacted in 1992 to keep the city clean. Chewing gum can be difficult to clean from streets and public places. The law has been effective in keeping Singapore clean. There is a law in the United States that prohibits the sale of certain types of fireworks. The law varies by state, and some states have more restrictive laws than others. The law is designed to prevent injuries and fires. Fireworks are regulated to ensure safety. There is a law in the United Kingdom that requires all taxis to carry a bale of hay. This is another urban legend, not a real law. The story is often told as a curiosity, but it has no basis in fact. It is one of many apocryphal laws that are widely believed. There is a law in Australia that prohibits the sale of certain types of knives. The law is designed to reduce knife crime. It restricts the sale of knives that are considered dangerous. The law is one of many weapons laws in Australia. There is a law in the United States that prohibits the sale of alcohol to minors. The law is designed to prevent underage drinking. The legal drinking age is 21 in all states. The law is enforced by the states, and it is a matter of public health. There is a law in France that prohibits the use of a name that is considered ridiculous. The law is designed to protect children from being given names that could cause them embarrassment. The law is enforced by the courts, and it has been used to change names. There is a law in Sweden that prohibits the use of a name that is considered offensive. The law is designed to protect individuals from being named in a way that could cause them harm. The law is enforced by the authorities, and it has been used to block certain names. There is a law in the United Kingdom that prohibits the use of a name that is considered misleading. The law is designed to prevent fraud and confusion. The law is enforced by the courts, and it has been used to change names that could cause confusion. There is a law in the United States that prohibits the sale of certain types of food. The law is designed to protect public health. The law regulates the sale of food that is considered unsafe or unwholesome. There is a law in Japan that prohibits the sale of certain types of pornography. The law is designed to protect public morals. The law regulates the sale of pornography that is considered obscene. There is a law in Italy that prohibits the sale of certain types of alcohol. The law is designed to protect public health. The law regulates the sale of alcohol that is considered dangerous. There is a law in the United Kingdom that prohibits the sale of certain types of fireworks. The law is designed to prevent injuries and fires. The law regulates the sale of fireworks that are considered dangerous. There is a law in Germany that prohibits the sale of certain types of weapons. The law is designed to reduce crime. The law regulates the sale of weapons that are considered dangerous. There is a law in France that prohibits the sale of certain types of food. The law is designed to protect public health. The law regulates the sale of food that is considered unsafe. There is a law in the United States that prohibits the sale of certain types of drugs. The law is designed to protect public health. The law regulates the sale of drugs that are considered dangerous. There is a law in the United Kingdom that prohibits the sale of certain types of alcohol. The law is designed to protect public health. The law regulates the sale of alcohol that is considered dangerous. There is a law in Japan that prohibits the sale of certain types of fireworks. The law is designed to prevent fires. The law regulates the sale of fireworks that are considered dangerous. There is a law in Australia that prohibits the sale of certain types of weapons. The law is designed to reduce crime. The law regulates the sale of weapons that are considered dangerous. There is a law in Canada that prohibits the sale of certain types of food. The law is designed to protect public health. The law regulates the sale of food that is considered unsafe. There is a law in India that prohibits the sale of certain types of drugs. The law is designed to protect public health. The law regulates the sale of drugs that are considered dangerous. And that is the rules we made. The laws that govern behavior, the regulations that shape societies, the peculiar laws that remain on the books. Plants are the quiet life. They grow slowly, often unnoticed, but they are the foundation of almost every ecosystem. Trees stand for centuries, fungi connect underground, and seeds wait for years to sprout. Here are some of the quieter facts about plants, trees, and the earth beneath our feet. The oldest known living tree is a Great Basin bristlecone pine named Methuselah. It is about 4,850 years old. It grows in the White Mountains of California, in a location that is kept secret to protect it. Methuselah was already ancient when the pyramids were built, and it is still alive today. There is a fungus in Oregon that covers about 2,385 acres. It is one of the largest living organisms on Earth. The fungus is a honey mushroom, Armillaria ostoyi, and it grows underground. It is a single organism that has spread over a vast area, making it one of the largest living things in the world. The tallest tree in the world is a coast redwood named Hyperion. It stands about 379 feet tall. It is located in California, in a remote area of Redwood National Park. Hyperion is taller than the Statue of Liberty, and it is one of the tallest living organisms on Earth. There are about 390,000 known species of plants in the world. About 90% of them are flowering plants. The flowering plants, or angiosperms, are the most diverse group of plants. They have evolved to reproduce through flowers, which attract pollinators. The roots of a tree can extend as far underground as the tree is tall. The spread varies by species, but roots often extend far beyond the canopy. The roots anchor the tree and absorb water and nutrients. They also interact with fungi and other organisms in the soil. There is a type of bamboo that can grow up to 35 inches in a single day. That is about 1.5 inches per hour. Bamboo is one of the fastest growing plants in the world. It is a grass, not a tree, and it can grow to full height in a single growing season. The color of a leaf in autumn comes from pigments that are always there. Chlorophyll fades and reveals yellow and orange pigments that were present all along. The leaves do not change color in the sense of producing new pigments. They reveal the pigments that were already there. The green fades, and the other colors become visible. The first land plants appeared about 470 million years ago. They were simple moss-like plants. These early plants had no roots or leaves, and they lived in damp environments. They were the first plants to colonize land, and they paved the way for the evolution of more complex plants. There is a seed that can remain viable for over 2,000 years. A date palm seed from the Masada fortress in Israel was successfully germinated in 2005. The seed was discovered during archaeological excavations, and it was planted and grew into a tree. The ancient seed produced a living plant. The Amazon rainforest produces about 20% of the world's oxygen. The exact percentage is debated, but the contribution is significant. The Amazon is often called the lungs of the earth because of its role in producing oxygen and absorbing carbon dioxide. The rainforest is a vital part of the global ecosystem. The Venus flytrap can count. It requires 2 touches within 20 seconds to close, avoiding false alarms. The plant has sensory hairs that detect movement, and it waits for multiple touches before closing. This prevents it from wasting energy on false triggers, like a raindrop or a gust of wind. There are about 60,000 known species of fungi. Experts estimate there may be millions more. Fungi are neither plants nor animals. They are a separate kingdom of life. They play essential roles in decomposition and nutrient cycling, and they form symbiotic relationships with plants. The largest flower in the world is the Rafflesia. It can grow up to 3 feet in diameter and weigh up to 15 pounds. The Rafflesia is a parasitic plant that lives on other plants. It has no leaves or stems, and it produces a single enormous flower that smells like rotting meat. The smallest flowering plant in the world is Wolffia, or watermeal. It is about the size of a grain of rice. Wolffia floats on the surface of ponds and produces tiny flowers that are barely visible. It is one of the smallest plants in the world. The fastest growing tree species is the eucalyptus. Some species can grow up to 10 feet per year. Eucalyptus trees are native to Australia, and they are known for their rapid growth and their aromatic leaves. They are planted in many parts of the world for timber and paper. The oldest living organism on Earth is not a tree, but a clonal colony of aspen trees. The colony, known as Pando, covers about 106 acres in Utah. It is estimated to be about 80,000 years old. Pando is a single organism that produces new trees from a shared root system. The Amazon rainforest contains about 390 billion trees. The number is an estimate, and it highlights the scale of the rainforest. The Amazon is the most biodiverse region in the world, with thousands of species of plants and animals. The bark of the cinchona tree contains quinine, which is used to treat malaria. The discovery of quinine was a significant advance in medicine. The cinchona tree is native to South America, and its bark has been used for centuries to treat fever. The rubber tree is native to the Amazon. It produces latex, which is used to make rubber. The rubber tree has been cultivated in many parts of the world, and it is an important source of natural rubber. The latex is harvested by tapping the tree. The maple tree produces sap that can be boiled down to make maple syrup. The sap is collected in the spring, when the tree begins to flow. Maple syrup production is a traditional practice in North America, and it is a significant industry. The olive tree has been cultivated for thousands of years. It produces olives, which are used for food and oil. The olive tree is a symbol of peace and prosperity in many cultures. It is a hardy tree that can live for hundreds of years. The fig tree has a unique relationship with wasps. The fig produces a flower that is pollinated by a specific species of wasp. The wasp lays its eggs inside the fig, and the fig provides a home for the developing wasps. The relationship is an example of mutualism. The giant sequoia is the largest tree by volume. It can grow to over 300 feet tall and weigh over 4 million pounds. The giant sequoia is native to California, and it is one of the most massive trees in the world. The trees can live for over 3,000 years. The oak tree is a common tree in many parts of the world. It produces acorns, which are a food source for many animals. The oak tree is a symbol of strength and endurance in many cultures. It is a long-lived tree that can survive for hundreds of years. The willow tree is known for its ability to grow in wet soil. It is often planted near water, and it has a distinctive appearance with drooping branches. The willow tree is used for basket weaving and other crafts. The mangrove tree grows in coastal areas and has adapted to salt water. It has specialized roots that allow it to survive in tidal zones. Mangroves provide habitat for many species and protect coastlines from erosion. The pine tree is an evergreen that produces cones. It is a common tree in many parts of the world, and it is often planted for timber. The pine tree is a symbol of endurance, and it is associated with winter and the holidays. The birch tree is known for its white bark, which peels in thin layers. It is a common tree in Northern Europe and North America. The birch tree is used for timber, and its bark has been used for centuries for making containers. The elm tree is a deciduous tree that has been affected by Dutch elm disease. The disease has killed many elm trees, but some have survived. The elm tree is known for its distinctive shape, with a broad crown and arching branches. The ash tree is a deciduous tree that is used for timber. It is a common tree in Europe and North America. The ash tree is known for its strength and flexibility, and it is often used for making tools and furniture. The beech tree is a deciduous tree that is known for its smooth bark. It is a common tree in Europe and North America. The beech tree produces nuts called beech nuts, which are a food source for many animals. The sycamore tree is a deciduous tree that is known for its mottled bark. It is a common tree in North America and Europe. The sycamore tree is a large tree that can live for hundreds of years. And that is the garden's quiet, the plants that grow, the trees that stand, the fungi that connect. Games are a human universal. Every culture has them. They are played for fun, for competition, for social connection. Some games are ancient, some are recent, and some have evolved over centuries. Here are some of the quieter facts about sports and games. The game of chess originated in India around the 6th century. It was called chaturanga, and it represented military divisions. The pieces represented infantry, cavalry, elephants, and chariots. The game spread to Persia, where it became known as shatranj, and then to Europe, where it evolved into modern chess. The modern Olympic Games were revived in 1896 in Athens. The ancient games lasted for over 1,000 years and were held in Olympia, Greece. The modern Olympics were revived by Pierre de Coubertin, who wanted to promote international understanding through sport. The first modern games had 14 countries and 241 athletes. The first baseball game with modern rules was played in 1846 in Hoboken, New Jersey. The Knickerbockers played the New York Nine. The game was played under rules that were formalized by Alexander Cartwright, who is considered the father of baseball. The rules established the diamond-shaped field and the concept of 3 strikes. The word tennis comes from the French tenez, meaning take heed. It was called out by the server to alert the receiver. The game of tennis was played in France as early as the 12th century. The modern game of lawn tennis was developed in the 19th century. The first basketball game was played in 1891 in Springfield, Massachusetts. It was played with a soccer ball and peach baskets. The game was invented by James Naismith, who was looking for an indoor activity for his students. The baskets had no holes, so the ball had to be retrieved after each score. There are no official rules for the number of players on a soccer team. The standard is 11 per side, but the laws of the game only specify that a team must have at least 7 players. The number 11 became standard through tradition and the formation of the Football Association in the 19th century. The first modern golf course was built in Scotland in the 15th century. The game is much older, with origins in ancient Rome and the Netherlands. The modern game of golf was developed in Scotland, where the first written rules were established in 1744. The game of Monopoly was originally created to teach about the dangers of land monopolies. It was called the landlord's game, and it was invented by Elizabeth Meiji in 1903. The game was designed to illustrate the economic theory of Henry George, who argued that land should be shared by all. The first Super Bowl was played in 1967. The Green Bay Packers defeated the Kansas City Chiefs. The game was not called the Super Bowl at first. It was called the AFL-NFL World Championship Game. The term Super Bowl was coined by Lamar Hunt, who was inspired by the Super Bowl toy. There is a sport called competitive duck herding. It involves herding ducks into a pen, and it is more of a novelty event. The competition is not widely known, but it has been featured at agricultural shows and fairs. It is a light-hearted activity that showcases the herding instincts of dogs. The first known board game is Senet. It was played in ancient Egypt around 3100 BC. Senet was a game of chance and strategy, and it was often placed in tombs as a grave good. The game was played on a board with 30 squares, and it may have had religious significance. The game of checkers dates to about 3000 BC. It was played in the ancient city of Ur in Mesopotamia. Checkers is one of the oldest board games, and it has been played in many forms throughout history. The modern game of checkers evolved from earlier games. The game of backgammon dates to about 3000 BC. It was played in ancient Mesopotamia and Egypt. Backgammon is one of the oldest board games, and it is still played today. It is a game of strategy and luck, involving dice and the movement of checkers. The game of Go originated in China about 2,500 years ago. It is one of the oldest board games still played. Go is a game of strategy, played on a grid with black and white stones. It is known for its simple rules and deep complexity. The game of mahjong originated in China in the 19th century. It was a game of skill and strategy, played with tiles and dice. The game spread to the West in the early 20th century, and it became a popular pastime. The game of dominoes originated in China in the 12th century. It was played with tiles, and it spread to Europe and the Americas. Dominoes is a game of chance and strategy, played by matching tiles. The game of cards originated in China in the 9th century. The first playing cards were made from paper, and they were used for games and divination. Cards spread to Europe and became a popular form of entertainment. The game of poker originated in the United States in the 19th century. It evolved from earlier games, and it became a popular card game. Poker is a game of skill and chance, played with a standard deck of cards. The game of blackjack originated in France in the 17th century. It was called 21, meaning 21. The game spread to the United States, where it became known as blackjack. It is a game of chance, played against the dealer. The game of roulette originated in France in the 18th century. It was a game of chance, played with a spinning wheel. Roulette was developed from earlier games, and it became popular in casinos. The game is named after the French word for small wheel. The game of craps originated in the United States in the 19th century. It evolved from an earlier game called hazard, which was played in England. Craps is a game of chance, played with dice. It is one of the most popular casino games. The game of bingo originated in Italy in the 16th century. It was called Lo Giuoco del Lotto d'Italia, and it was played with a card and numbers. The game spread to other countries and evolved into modern bingo. The game of darts originated in England in the 16th century. It was played with a short dart and a target on the wall. Darts is a game of skill, played by throwing darts at a numbered board. The game is a pub game and a competitive sport. The game of billiards originated in Europe in the 15th century. It was played with a cue and balls on a table. Billiards evolved from a similar game, and it became a popular pastime. The game has many forms, including pool and snooker. The game of bowling originated in ancient Egypt. It was a game of skill, played with a ball and pins. Bowling evolved over the centuries, and it became a popular sport in many cultures. The game of soccer is the world's most popular sport. It is played by over 250 million people in over 200 countries. Soccer is a simple game, requiring only a ball and a field. It is a game of skill and teamwork. The game of cricket originated in England in the 16th century. It is a bat and ball game, played on a field with wickets. Cricket is a popular sport in many countries, including England, Australia, India, and South Africa. The game of rugby originated in England in the 19th century. It evolved from soccer, and it became a separate sport. Rugby is a physical sport, played with an oval ball on a field. The game is known for its tackling and its teamwork. The game of hockey originated in ancient Greece. It was played with a stick and a ball, and it was a team sport. Hockey evolved over the centuries, and it became a popular sport in many cultures. The game of lacrosse originated in North America. It was played by Native Americans, and it was used for training and recreation. Lacrosse is a fast-paced game, played with a stick and a ball. It is one of the oldest sports in North America. The game of badminton originated in India in the 19th century. It evolved from a similar game played in England. Badminton is a racket sport, played with a shuttlecock and a net. It is a fast-paced game of skill and strategy. The game of table tennis originated in England in the 19th century. It was a version of tennis played on a table. Table tennis is a fast-paced game, played with a small ball and paddles. It is a popular sport in many countries. And that is the games we play. The sports, the board games, the pastimes that connect us. Words carry histories. They travel through time, change meaning, shift pronunciation, and adapt to new contexts. The words we use every day have stories behind them, and those stories often reveal unexpected connections. Here are some more of the quieter origins of the words we speak. The word muscle comes from Latin musculus, meaning little mouse. The flexing of a muscle was thought to resemble a mouse moving under the skin. The Romans saw the movement of the biceps and imagined a small animal scurrying beneath the flesh. The word is a vivid description of how muscles look when they contract. The word quarantine comes from Italian quarantina, meaning 40 days. During the Black Death, ships arriving in Venice were required to wait 40 days before disembarking. The period of isolation was intended to prevent the spread of disease. The word now refers to any period of isolation, not just the original 40 days. The word tragedy comes from Greek tragoidia, meaning goat song. The exact origin is uncertain, but it may refer to a competition in which a goat was the prize. The word eventually came to mean a play with a serious theme, and it is now used for any event that is sad or disastrous. The word daisy comes from day's eye. The flower opens at dawn and closes at dusk, as if it is watching the day. The name describes the flower's behavior, and it has been used since Old English. The daisy is a simple flower with a name that reflects its daily rhythm. The word window comes from Old Norse vindur auga, meaning wind eye. It was an opening for air, a hole in the wall that let the wind in. The word describes the function of the window, and it reflects the practical needs of early builders. The word disaster comes from Italian disastro, meaning bad star. The word originally referred to astrology, where a bad star was believed to cause misfortune. The secular etymology of the word is the star itself, and the word has come to mean any unfortunate event. The word trivial comes from Latin trivium, the crossroads where three roads meet. At the crossroads, people would exchange common gossip, so trivial came to mean commonplace or unimportant. The word describes the place where everyday conversation happened. The word companion comes from Latin com and panis, meaning with bread. A companion is someone you share bread with. The word describes the act of eating together, and it has come to mean any person who accompanies you. The word genius comes from Latin genius, the guardian spirit of a place or person. The word evolved to mean extraordinary intelligence, but it originally referred to a protective spirit. The word has shifted from a supernatural meaning to a secular one. The word sarcasm comes from Greek sarkazine, meaning to tear flesh. The word refers to bitter speech that cuts like a knife. Sarcasm is a form of irony that is meant to wound or mock, and its name describes its effect. The word hello was originally a call to get attention. It became a greeting with the telephone when it was used to answer calls. The word is now a standard greeting, but it has a relatively recent history. The word goodbye comes from God be with you. The phrase was shortened over time to goodbye. The word carries its religious origin, but it is now used in secular contexts. It is a contraction that has become a standard farewell. The word sandwich comes from the Earl of Sandwich, who asked for meat between bread. The word is a proper noun that became a common noun. The Earl's name is still used to describe the food he popularized. The word dollar comes from thaler, a coin minted in Joachimsthal. The word traveled from German to Dutch to English, becoming dollar. The name of a mining town became the name of a currency. The word salary comes from salarium, meaning salt money. Roman soldiers were paid in salt, or given money to buy salt. The word for salt became the word for payment, and it still means a regular payment. The word money comes from moneta, a temple in Rome where coins were minted. The word's origin is the mint location, and it has become the universal term for currency. The word freelance comes from a mercenary, who was a lance for hire. The word combines free with lance, the weapon of a knight. It now means any worker who is not employed by a single employer. The word maverick comes from a rancher who did not brand his cattle. Samuel Maverick's name became a term for unbranded animals, and then for independent people. The word describes someone who does not follow the rules. The word t-shirt comes from the T-shape of the garment. The name describes the shape, and it has been used since the 1920s. The t-shirt is now a standard item of clothing. The word clue comes from a ball of thread used to find one's way out of a maze. The word originally meant a ball of thread, and it came to mean any hint or indication. The word has shifted from a physical object to an abstract concept. The word muscle and mouse are related. The Latin musculus means both little mouse and muscle. The words share a common origin, and the connection is the movement of the muscle under the skin. The word pencil comes from penicillus, meaning little tail. The word originally referred to a small brush, and it later came to mean a writing instrument. The word describes the shape of a brush or pencil. The word paper comes from papyrus, the plant used to make early writing material. Papyrus was used in ancient Egypt, and the word traveled through Latin and French to become paper. The word is a record of the material that was used to write. The word book comes from bok, the Old English word for beech tree. Early books were made from beech wood, and the word describes the material. The word has shifted from the material to the object. The word library comes from liber, meaning book. The word is related to liberty and liberation, but the connection is not direct. The library is a place of books, and the word describes its function. The word school comes from Greek skole, meaning leisure. The word was used to describe the time when people could engage in intellectual discussion. The word shifted from leisure to learning, and it now means a place of education. The word college comes from Latin collegium, meaning a community. The word originally referred to a group of people with a shared purpose. It now means an educational institution. The word university comes from Latin universitas, meaning a corporation. The word originally referred to a body of scholars, not the institution. It has come to mean the place where learning happens. The word campus comes from Latin campus, meaning a field. The word originally referred to the open space outside a city. It now means the grounds of a university. The word student comes from Latin studere, meaning to be eager or to study. The word describes the attitude of a learner, and it has been used in English for centuries. The word teacher comes from Old English tekan, meaning to show or to point. The word describes the act of showing someone how to do something. A teacher is someone who points the way. The word lesson comes from Latin lectio, meaning a reading. The word originally referred to a reading assignment, and it came to mean any learning activity. A lesson is something that is read or learned. The word knowledge comes from Old English sewan, meaning to know. The word is related to know and acknowledge. Knowledge is the state of knowing, and the word describes the process of coming to know. And that is the words we speak, the origins, the shifts, the histories carried in every word. The air around us is always moving. It shifts, it changes. It creates the weather that shapes our days. Wind, rain, clouds, temperature, these are the everyday phenomena that we experience but rarely think about. Here are some of the quieter facts about weather and the atmosphere. The fastest wind speed ever recorded on Earth was 253 miles per hour. It was recorded during Cyclone Olivia in 1996 in Australia. The wind was measured on Barrow Island, and it was the strongest wind ever recorded at the surface. The wind was part of a tropical cyclone that brought extreme weather to the region. There are about 2,000 thunderstorms on Earth at any given moment. That is roughly 16 million per year. Thunderstorms are common, especially in tropical regions. They occur when warm, moist air rises and condenses, forming cumulonimbus clouds. The storms bring lightning, thunder, and rain. The temperature of lightning is about 50,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That is 5 times hotter than the surface of the sun. Lightning is a massive electrical discharge, and it heats the air around it to extreme temperatures. The sudden heating causes the air to expand rapidly, creating the sound of thunder. The heaviest snowflake ever recorded weighed about 15 inches in diameter. It fell in Montana in 1887. The snowflake was part of a record snowstorm, and it was one of the largest snowflakes ever observed. The size of a snowflake depends on the temperature and humidity in the atmosphere. There are about 10,000 named clouds. They are classified into 10 basic types, according to the World Meteorological Organization. The cloud types include cirrus, cumulus, stratus, and nimbus, among others. The classification system was developed in the 19th century, and it is used by meteorologists worldwide. The driest place on Earth is the Atacama Desert in Chile. Some areas have never recorded rain. The desert is one of the driest places on the planet, and it is often compared to Mars. The lack of rain is due to the rain-shadow effect of the Andes Mountains. The wettest place on Earth is Mawsynram in India. It receives about 467 inches of rain per year. Mawsynram is a village in the state of Meghalaya, and it holds the record for the most annual rainfall. The rain is caused by the monsoon winds that bring moisture from the Bay of Bengal. The wind chill factor was first calculated in the 1940s. It was designed to measure how cold wind feels on exposed skin. The wind chill factor is a measure of the cooling effect of wind, and it is used to warn people of the dangers of cold weather. There is a type of lightning called sprites and elves. They occur above thunderstorms and are red or blue. Sprites are large electrical discharges that occur in the upper atmosphere, and they are often triggered by lightning. They are a relatively recent discovery, having been photographed for the first time in 1989. The average temperature of Earth has risen about 2 degrees Fahrenheit since the 1880s. According to NASA, the Earth's surface temperature has increased due to climate change. The warming is caused by greenhouse gases, which trap heat in the atmosphere. The trend is ongoing, and it has significant implications for the planet. The highest temperature ever recorded on Earth was 134 degrees Fahrenheit. It was recorded in Death Valley, California, in 1913. Death Valley is one of the hottest places on Earth, and it holds the record for the highest temperature. The extreme heat is caused by the desert climate and the low elevation. The lowest temperature ever recorded on Earth was minus 128.6 degrees Fahrenheit. It was recorded in Antarctica in 1983. Antarctica is the coldest continent, and it holds the record for the coldest temperature. The extreme cold is caused by the polar climate and the high elevation. The atmosphere is composed of several layers. The troposphere is the lowest layer, where weather occurs. The stratosphere is above it, and it contains the ozone layer. The mesosphere, thermosphere, and exosphere extend to the edge of space. The layers are distinguished by changes in temperature and pressure. The ozone layer is located in the stratosphere. It absorbs most of the sun's ultraviolet radiation. The ozone layer is essential for life on Earth, and it has been damaged by human activities. The hole in the ozone layer is gradually recovering. The greenhouse effect is a natural process that warms the Earth. It occurs when greenhouse gases trap heat in the atmosphere. Without the greenhouse effect, the Earth would be much colder. Human activities have increased the concentration of greenhouse gases, leading to global warming. The water cycle is the movement of water through the atmosphere. Water evaporates from the surface, forms clouds, and falls as rain. The water cycle is driven by the sun, and it is essential for life on Earth. It is a continuous cycle of evaporation, condensation, and precipitation. The jet stream is a fast-moving current of air in the atmosphere. It flows from west to east and influences weather patterns. The jet stream is driven by the temperature difference between the poles and the equator. It is an important factor in aviation and weather forecasting. The monsoon is a seasonal wind that brings heavy rain to South Asia. The monsoon is driven by the temperature difference between the land and the sea. The monsoon is essential for agriculture in South Asia, but it can also bring devastating floods. The El Niño phenomenon is a warming of the Pacific Ocean that affects global weather. El Niño occurs every few years and can cause droughts, floods, and other extreme weather. The phenomenon is part of the El Niño Southern Oscillation, a climate pattern that affects the tropics. The La Niña phenomenon is the cooling of the Pacific Ocean that affects global weather. La Niña is the opposite of El Niño, and it can also cause extreme weather. The phenomenon is part of the same climate pattern, and it is monitored by meteorologists worldwide. The barometer is an instrument that measures atmospheric pressure. It is used in weather forecasting to predict changes in the weather. The barometer was invented in the 17th century, and it is still used today. A rising barometer indicates fair weather, while a falling barometer indicates storms. The thermometer is an instrument that measures temperature. It is used in weather stations to record the temperature. The thermometer was invented in the 17th century, and it is one of the most important instruments in meteorology. The anemometer is an instrument that measures wind speed. It is used to record the wind velocity, and it is an important tool for weather forecasting. The anemometer was invented in the 15th century, and it is still used today. The hygrometer is an instrument that measures humidity. It is used to record the moisture content of the air. The hygrometer was invented in the 18th century, and it is used in many applications, including weather forecasting. The rain gauge is an instrument that measures rainfall. It is used to record the amount of precipitation, and it is an important tool for climate studies. The rain gauge is a simple instrument, and it has been used for centuries. The weather balloon is a balloon that carries instruments into the atmosphere. It is used to measure temperature, pressure, and humidity at high altitudes. The weather balloon is an important tool for weather forecasting. The satellite is used to observe weather from space. It captures images of clouds and storms, and it provides data for weather forecasting. The satellite is an essential tool for modern meteorology, and it has revolutionized weather prediction. The Doppler radar is used to detect precipitation and wind. It is an important tool for weather forecasting, and it is used to track storms and hurricanes. The Doppler radar was developed in the 20th century, and it is now used worldwide. The hurricane is a tropical cyclone that forms over the ocean. It is a powerful storm with winds of at least 74 miles per hour. Hurricanes are known by different names in different regions, including typhoons and cyclones. The tornado is a violent rotating column of air. It forms during thunderstorms and can cause significant damage. Tornadoes are most common in the United States, but they occur in many parts of the world. The blizzard is a severe snowstorm with strong winds. It is characterized by low visibility and extreme cold. Blizzards are most common in the northern United States and Canada. The fog is a cloud that forms at ground level. It reduces visibility and can be a hazard for transportation. Fog forms when the air cools and water vapor condenses, and it is common in coastal regions. The dew is the moisture that forms on surfaces at night. It occurs when the temperature drops and water vapor condenses on objects. Dew is an important source of moisture for plants, and it is one of the quietest of weather phenomena. And that is the air we breathe. The weather, the atmosphere, the invisible currents that move around us. Music is one of the oldest human expressions. It is made with voices and instruments, with rhythms and melodies. The sounds we make have a history, and the instruments we use have evolved over thousands of years. Here are some of the quieter facts about music and the instruments we play. The oldest known musical instrument is a flute made from a vulture bone. It is about 40,000 years old. The flute was discovered in a cave in Germany, and it is one of the earliest examples of human musical expression. The instrument has finger holes, which indicates that it was capable of producing multiple notes. The piano has 88 keys. There are 52 white keys and 36 black keys, though some pianos have 85 or 97 keys. The piano evolved from the harpsichord, and it was invented by Bartolomeo Cristofori in the early 18th century. The 88-key standard was established in the 19th century. The guitar has 6 strings. There are also 7-string and 12-string guitars, but the 6-string is the most common. The guitar evolved from earlier stringed instruments, and it became popular in the 20th century. The strings are tuned to E, A, D, G, B, and E. The human ear can hear frequencies from about 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz. This range decreases with age. The ear is a remarkable organ, capable of detecting a wide range of sounds. The ability to hear high frequencies declines as people get older. The speed of sound in air is about 767 miles per hour. That is 1,125 feet per second. The speed of sound depends on the temperature of the air, and it increases as the temperature rises. Sound travels faster in warm air than in cold air. The first recorded music was made in 1860. It was a French folk song called Au clair de la lune. The recording was made on a phonautograph, which was a device that recorded sound waves on paper. The recording is the earliest known audio recording. The violin has 4 strings. They are tuned to G, D, A, and E, from lowest to highest. The violin evolved from earlier bowed instruments, and it became a standard instrument in orchestras. The violin is known for its expressive sound. The drum is one of the oldest instruments. It has been used for communication for thousands of years. Drums are found in cultures around the world, and they are used for ceremonies, communication, and music. The drum is a simple instrument, but it is one of the most important. The trumpet has 3 valves. They change the length of the tubing and thus the pitch. The trumpet evolved from natural trumpets, which had no valves. The modern trumpet was developed in the 19th century, and it is used in orchestras, bands, and jazz ensembles. The first known use of the word music in English dates to the 13th century. It comes from Old French musique, which came from Latin musica. The word has been used in English for centuries, and it refers to the art of combining sounds. The oboe is made from a single piece of wood. It is usually made from grenadilla or rosewood. The oboe evolved from earlier instruments, and it became a standard instrument in orchestras. The oboe is known for its distinctive sound. The human voice can produce sounds from about 100 Hz to 300 Hz for a male voice and 200 to 500 Hz for a female voice. The voice is a versatile instrument, capable of a wide range of pitches and tones. The voice is used for singing and speaking. The harp is one of the oldest stringed instruments. It was played in ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia. The harp is a plucked instrument, and it is used in orchestras and for solo performances. The harp has a distinctive sound. The flute is a woodwind instrument that is played by blowing across a hole. It is one of the oldest instruments, and it has been found in many cultures. The flute is used in orchestras, bands, and for solo performances. The clarinet is a woodwind instrument that is played with a reed. It evolved from earlier instruments, and it became a standard instrument in orchestras. The clarinet has a distinctive sound, and it is used in many genres of music. The saxophone is a woodwind instrument that is made of brass. It was invented by Adolphe Sax in the 19th century. The saxophone is used in jazz, classical, and popular music. It has a distinctive sound. The trombone is a brass instrument that uses a slide to change pitch. It evolved from earlier instruments, and it is used in orchestras, bands, and jazz ensembles. The trombone has a distinctive sound. The tuba is a brass instrument that is the lowest pitched in the orchestra. It is used in orchestras, bands, and for solo performances. The tuba has a rich, deep sound. The cymbal is a percussion instrument that is made of metal. It is used in orchestras, bands, and for solo performances. The cymbal is struck with a stick or another cymbal, and it produces a loud, ringing sound. The gong is a percussion instrument that is made of metal. It is used in orchestras and for solo performances. The gong is struck with a mallet, and it produces a deep, resonant sound. The xylophone is a percussion instrument that is made of wooden bars. It is used in orchestras and for solo performances. The xylophone is struck with mallets, and it produces a bright, clear sound. The marimba is a percussion instrument that is similar to the xylophone. It has wooden bars and resonators, and it produces a rich, warm sound. The marimba is used in orchestras and for solo performances. The timpani is a percussion instrument that is a type of drum. It is used in orchestras, and it is tuned to specific pitches. The timpani is struck with mallets, and it produces a resonant sound. The accordion is a free reed instrument that is played with bellows. It was invented in the 19th century, and it is used in folk music, jazz, and popular music. The accordion has a distinctive sound. The harmonica is a free reed instrument that is played by blowing air through holes. It is used in folk music, blues, and popular music. The harmonica is a small, portable instrument. The banjo is a stringed instrument that is played by plucking or strumming. It was developed in the United States, and it is used in folk, country, and bluegrass music. The banjo has a distinctive sound. The mandolin is a stringed instrument that is played by plucking. It evolved from the lute, and it is used in folk music and classical music. The mandolin has a bright, clear sound. The ukulele is a stringed instrument that is similar to the guitar. It was developed in Hawaii, and it is used in folk music and popular music. The ukulele has a light, cheerful sound. The sitar is a stringed instrument that is used in Indian classical music. It has a distinctive sound, and it is played by plucking the strings. The sitar is an important instrument in the music of India. The tabla is a percussion instrument that is used in Indian classical music. It consists of 2 drums, and it is played with the hands. The tabla is an important instrument in the music of India. The didgeridoo is a wind instrument that is used in Aboriginal Australian music. It is made from a hollow log, and it produces a low, droning sound. The didgeridoo is one of the oldest instruments in the world. The bagpipes are a wind instrument that is used in Scottish and Irish music. They consist of a bag and pipes, and they produce a distinctive sound. The bagpipes are an important instrument in Celtic music. The pan flute is a wind instrument that is made of pipes of different lengths. It is used in folk music, and it has a light, airy sound. The pan flute is one of the oldest instruments, and it has been found in many cultures. And that is the sounds we make. The instruments, the voices, the music that has been part of human life for thousands of years. Clothing is one of the most basic human needs. We wear it for protection, for warmth, for decoration. The fabrics we use have histories, and the garments we wear have evolved over time. Here are some of the quieter facts about fashion and textiles. The first known use of cotton as a textile dates to about 5000 BC in India. It was spun and woven into cloth. Cotton was one of the first fibers to be used for clothing, and it became a staple of textile production. The cultivation of cotton spread to other parts of the world over the centuries. Silk was first produced in China around 2700 BC. The secret of silk production was guarded for thousands of years. Silk was a luxury fabric, and it was traded along the Silk Road. The production of silk involved the cultivation of silkworms and the processing of their cocoons. The first sewing machine was patented in 1846 by Elias Howe. He faced legal battles over the patent. Other inventors had created similar machines, and Howe had to defend his patent in court. The sewing machine became a common household appliance in the late 19th century. The zipper was first used on boots in the 1890s. It was not used on clothing until the 1920s. The zipper was a fastener that made it easier to close garments, and it became a standard part of clothing. The zipper is now used on thousands of products. The first pair of jeans was made in 1873 by Levi Strauss and Jacob Davis. They used denim and rivets to reinforce the fabric. Jeans were originally work pants, designed for miners and cowboys. They became a staple of casual wear in the 20th century. The word denim comes from serge de Nîmes, a fabric from the French city of Nîmes. The fabric was a sturdy cotton twill, and it was used for work clothes. The name was shortened to denim, and it is now used for the fabric of jeans. The first man-made fiber was rayon. It was developed in the 1890s as a substitute for silk. Rayon was made from cellulose, and it was the first synthetic fiber. It was used for clothing and home furnishings. The buttonhole was invented in the 13th century. Before that, buttons were used as decoration. The buttonhole allowed buttons to be used as fasteners, and it revolutionized clothing. The button became a practical way to close garments. The first synthetic fiber was nylon. It was invented by Wallace Carothers in 1935. Nylon was a versatile fiber, and it was used for stockings, parachutes, and many other products. Nylon was the first commercially successful synthetic fiber. The average American throws away about 80 pounds of clothing per year, according to the EPA. The textile waste is a significant environmental issue. Many clothes are discarded and end up in landfills. The fashion industry is a major contributor to waste. The color purple was historically expensive to produce. It came from the murex snail, and it was reserved for royalty. The dye was difficult to extract, and it was costly to produce. Purple became a symbol of wealth and status. The first known knitted garments date to about the 11th century. They were found in Egypt. Knitting was a technique for creating fabric from yarn, and it became a common way to make clothing. Knitted garments are warm and flexible. The first known woven fabrics date to about 6000 BC. They were made from plant fibers. Weaving was one of the earliest textile techniques, and it is still used today. Woven fabrics are strong and durable. The first known use of wool as a textile dates to about 4000 BC. Wool was one of the first animal fibers to be used for clothing. Wool is warm and durable, and it is still used for many garments. The cultivation of sheep for wool has been practiced for thousands of years. The first known use of linen as a textile dates to about 5000 BC in Egypt. Linen was made from the flax plant, and it was used for clothing and burial wrappings. Linen is a lightweight, breathable fabric, and it was highly prized in ancient Egypt. The first known use of leather as a clothing material dates to prehistoric times. Leather was made from animal hides, and it was used for protection and warmth. Leather is durable and flexible, and it is still used for clothing and accessories. The first known use of fur as a clothing material dates to prehistoric times. Fur was used for warmth, and it was valued for its insulation. Fur is still used for clothing, though it is increasingly controversial. The use of fur has a long history. The first known use of a needle for sewing dates to about 40,000 years ago. The needle was made from bone, and it was used to sew animal hides. The needle was a simple tool, but it was essential for making clothing. The first known use of thread dates to about 30,000 years ago. Thread was made from plant fibers and animal sinew. Thread was used for sewing and weaving, and it was an essential part of textile production. The development of thread was a significant advance. The first known use of a loom for weaving dates to about 8000 BC. The loom was a device for holding the warp threads, making weaving easier. The loom was a significant invention, and it revolutionized textile production. The first known use of a spinning wheel dates to the 11th century. The spinning wheel was used to spin yarn, and it was a significant advance in textile production. The spinning wheel made it easier to produce yarn, and it was used for centuries. The first known use of a knitting machine dates to the 16th century. The machine was used to knit socks, and it was a significant advance in textile production. The knitting machine made it easier to produce knitted garments. The first known use of a sewing machine dates to the 19th century. The sewing machine made it easier to sew clothing, and it revolutionized the garment industry. The sewing machine is still used today. The first known use of a zipper dates to the 19th century. The zipper was a fastener that made it easier to close garments. The zipper became a standard part of clothing, and it is still used today. The first known use of a button dates to about 2000 BC. Buttons were originally used as ornaments, and they later became fasteners. The button is one of the oldest fasteners in history. The first known use of a snap fastener dates to the 19th century. The snap fastener was used for clothing, and it became a common fastener. The snap fastener is still used today. The first known use of Velcro dates to the 20th century. Velcro was inspired by burrs that stuck to a dog's fur. The fastener uses hooks and loops, and it is used on shoes, clothing, and many other products. The first known use of a hook and eye fastener dates to ancient times. The hook and eye is one of the oldest fasteners, and it is still used today. It is a simple and effective way to close a garment. The first known use of a drawstring dates to ancient times. The drawstring was used to close garments, and it is still used today. It is a simple and effective fastener. The first known use of a belt dates to ancient times. Belts were used to hold up garments, and they are still used today. Belts are both functional and decorative. The first known use of a pocket dates to the 16th century. Pockets were used to carry small items, and they are still used today. Pockets are both functional and decorative. The first known use of a collar dates to the 16th century. Collars were used for decoration, and they became a common part of clothing. Collars are still used today. The first known use of a sleeve dates to ancient times. Sleeves were used for warmth and protection, and they are still used today. Sleeves are a common part of many garments. And that is the clothes we wear. The fabrics, the garments, the histories woven into every piece. Humans have always built things. Shelters, monuments, bridges, cities. The structures we create reflect our needs, our values, and our ingenuity. Some buildings have stood for thousands of years, while others are modern marvels of engineering. Here are some of the quieter facts about architecture and engineering. The Great Pyramid of Giza was built around 2560 BC. It was the tallest structure in the world for about 3,800 years. The pyramid is made of limestone and granite, and it was built as a tomb for the pharaoh Khufu. It is the oldest and largest of the three pyramids at Giza. The first known use of concrete was in ancient Rome. It was used to build the Pantheon and other structures. Roman concrete was made from lime, volcanic ash, and water, and it was strong and durable. The Pantheon still has the largest unreinforced concrete dome in the world. The tallest building in the world is the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. It stands at 2,717 feet. The building was completed in 2010, and it has 163 floors. It is a mixed-use building, containing residences, offices, and a hotel. The first suspension bridge was built in the 18th century. The first modern one was the Menai Suspension Bridge in 1826. Suspension bridges use cables suspended from towers to support the bridge deck. They are used for long spans, and they are a common type of bridge. The Eiffel Tower was built in 1889. It was designed as the entrance to the 1889 World's Fair. The tower is made of wrought iron, and it is 984 feet tall. It was the tallest structure in the world until 1930. The Great Wall of China is about 13,000 miles long. It was built over 2,000 years. The wall was built to protect China from invasions, and it was built in sections over different dynasties. The wall is a series of fortifications, and it is one of the largest structures ever built. The first known arch was built in ancient Mesopotamia. It dates to about 2000 BC. The arch was used in construction, and it was a significant advance in engineering. The arch allowed for larger openings in buildings, and it was used in bridges and aqueducts. The Panama Canal was completed in 1914. It is about 50 miles long. The canal connects the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, and it is one of the most important shipping routes in the world. The construction of the canal was a major engineering feat. The first known use of glass in buildings dates to the Romans. They used small panes in windows. Glass was used for decoration and for letting light into buildings. The use of glass in architecture has increased over time, and it is now a common building material. The Sydney Opera House was designed by Jørn Utzon. It was completed in 1973. The Opera House is a performing arts center, and it is one of the most recognizable buildings in the world. The design is characterized by its distinctive roof shells. The first known use of the dome was in ancient Rome. The Pantheon has a dome that is still the largest unreinforced concrete dome. The dome was used for large buildings, and it became a common feature in architecture. The dome is a structurally efficient shape. The Golden Gate Bridge was completed in 1937. It is about 1.7 miles long. The bridge is a suspension bridge, and it connects San Francisco to Marin County. The Golden Gate Bridge is one of the most recognizable bridges in the world. The Leaning Tower of Pisa was built in the 12th century. It began to lean during construction due to soft ground. The tower is about 183 feet tall, and it leans about 4 degrees. The tilt is one of its most distinctive features. The Taj Mahal was built in the 17th century. It is a mausoleum in India. The building is made of white marble, and it is one of the most recognizable buildings in the world. The Taj Mahal was built by Emperor Shah Jahan for his wife. The Colosseum was built in the 1st century AD in Rome. It is an amphitheater that could hold up to 50,000 spectators. The Colosseum was used for gladiatorial contests and public spectacles. It is one of the most iconic structures of the Roman Empire. The Parthenon was built in the 5th century BC in Athens. It is a temple dedicated to Athena. The Parthenon is made of marble, and it is one of the most recognizable buildings in the world. It is a symbol of ancient Greek civilization. The Hagia Sophia was built in the 6th century AD in Constantinople. It was originally a church, and it later became a mosque. The building is known for its large dome, and it is a masterpiece of Byzantine architecture. It is now a museum. The Notre Dame de Paris was built in the 12th century. It is a Gothic cathedral in Paris. The cathedral is known for its flying buttresses and rose windows. It was damaged by a fire in 2019, but it is being restored. The St. Basil's Cathedral was built in the 16th century in Moscow. It is known for its colorful onion-shaped domes. The cathedral was built by Ivan the Terrible, and it is one of the most recognizable buildings in Russia. The Chrysler Building was built in 1930 in New York City. It is an Art Deco skyscraper, and it was the tallest building in the world for a brief period. The building is known for its distinctive spire and its Art Deco details. The Empire State Building was built in 1931 in New York City. It was the tallest building in the world for nearly 40 years. The building is 1,454 feet tall, and it is one of the most recognizable buildings in the world. The Burj Khalifa is the tallest building in the world. It was completed in 2010 in Dubai. The building is 2,717 feet tall, and it has 163 floors. It is a mixed-use building containing residences, offices, and a hotel. The Shanghai Tower is the second tallest building in the world. It is 2,073 feet tall, and it has 128 floors. The tower was completed in 2015 in Shanghai. It is a mixed-use building, and it is known for its twisting design. The Abraj Al Bayt Clock Tower is the third tallest building in the world. It is 1,972 feet tall, and it is located in Mecca, Saudi Arabia. The tower is part of a complex that includes a hotel and a shopping center. The One World Trade Center is the tallest building in the United States. It is 1,776 feet tall, and it was completed in 2014 in New York City. The building was built on the site of the World Trade Center, and it is a symbol of resilience. The Taipei 101 is a skyscraper in Taiwan. It is 1,667 feet tall, and it has 101 floors. The building was completed in 2004, and it was the tallest building in the world until 2010. The building is known for its distinctive design. The Petronas Towers are twin skyscrapers in Malaysia. They are 1,483 feet tall, and they were the tallest buildings in the world from 1998 to 2004. The towers are connected by a sky bridge, and they are a symbol of Malaysia. The Willis Tower is a skyscraper in Chicago. It is 1,451 feet tall, and it was the tallest building in the world from 1974 to 1998. The tower is known for its distinctive design, and it is one of the most recognizable buildings in Chicago. The CN Tower is a communications tower in Toronto. It is 1,815 feet tall, and it was the tallest freestanding structure in the world from 1976 to 2007. The tower is a symbol of Toronto, and it is a popular tourist attraction. The Ostankino Tower is a communications tower in Moscow. It is 1,772 feet tall, and it was the tallest freestanding structure in the world from 1967 to 1976. The tower is a symbol of Moscow, and it is a popular tourist attraction. The Space Needle is a communications tower in Seattle. It was built for the 1962 World's Fair. The tower is 605 feet tall, and it is a symbol of Seattle. The Space Needle is one of the most recognizable structures in the city. The London Eye is a giant Ferris wheel in London. It was completed in 2000, and it is 443 feet tall. The wheel is a popular tourist attraction, and it offers views of the city. The London Eye is one of the most recognizable structures in London. The Eiffel Tower is a communications tower in Paris. It was built in 1889, and it is 984 feet tall. The tower is a symbol of Paris, and it is one of the most recognizable structures in the world. The Eiffel Tower is a popular tourist attraction, and that is the structures we built: the buildings, the bridges, the engineering feats that shape our cities and our lives. Reading is one of the most fundamental human activities. We read to learn, to be entertained, to connect with others. The written word has a long history, from clay tablets to digital screens. Here are some of the quieter facts about books, writing, and the materials we use to record our thoughts. The first known writing system was cuneiform. It was developed in Mesopotamia around 3400 BC. Cuneiform used wedge-shaped marks on clay tablets. It was used for record-keeping, and it was the first known writing system. The invention of writing was a milestone in human history. The first known alphabet was developed by the Phoenicians around 1050 BC. It had 22 letters. The Phoenician alphabet was the basis for many later alphabets, including Greek and Latin. The alphabet was a simplification of earlier writing systems, and it made writing more accessible. The first known book was the Epic of Gilgamesh. It was written on clay tablets around 2100 BC. The epic is a poem about a Sumerian king, and it is one of the oldest known works of literature. The epic has survived on fragments of clay tablets. The first known paper was made in China around 105 AD. It was made by Kai Lun, who used plant fibers. Paper was a significant advance in writing materials. It was cheaper and more portable than earlier materials like clay and papyrus. The first known printed book was the Diamond Sutra. It was printed in China in 868 AD. The book is a Buddhist text, and it was printed using wood blocks. The Diamond Sutra is the oldest known printed book, and it is a significant artifact in the history of printing. The first known public library was in ancient Rome. It was founded in 39 BC by Asinius Pollio. The library was a public institution that made books available to the public. The library was a significant development in the history of education and literacy. The first known encyclopedia was written by Pliny the Elder. It was called Natural History and had 37 volumes. The encyclopedia was a comprehensive work covering many subjects, including astronomy, geography, and medicine. Pliny's work was a significant contribution to knowledge. The first known use of the word book in English dates to the 8th century. It comes from Old English bok. The word originally referred to a written document, and it has been used in English for over 1,000 years. The word is now used for any bound collection of pages. The first known novel is often considered to be The Tale of Genji. It was written in Japan in the 11th century by Murasaki Shikibu. The novel is about the life of a prince, and it is considered to be the first novel. The Tale of Genji is a masterpiece of Japanese literature. The first known copyright law was the Statute of Anne in 1710. It gave authors rights to their work for 14 years. The statute was a significant development in the history of copyright, and it established the principle that authors should be compensated for their work. The first known library catalog was created in ancient Mesopotamia. It listed clay tablets by content. The catalog was a systematic list of the tablets in the library, and it allowed users to find specific texts. The catalog was a significant development in the history of libraries. The first known use of the word paper, in English, dates to the 14th century. It comes from Old French papier, which came from Latin papyrus. The word describes the material that was used for writing, and it is still used today. The first known use of ink dates to ancient Egypt. Ink was made from soot and gum, and it was used for writing on papyrus. Ink was a significant advance in writing materials, and it allowed for more permanent records. The first known use of a pen dates to ancient Egypt. Pens were made from reeds, and they were used for writing on papyrus. The pen was a simple tool, but it was essential for writing. The pen has evolved over time, but it is still used today. The first known use of a pencil dates to the 16th century. Pencils were made from graphite, and they were used for writing and drawing. The pencil was a significant advance in writing tools, and it is still used today. The first known use of a typewriter dates to the 19th century. The typewriter was used for writing, and it was a significant advance in communication technology. The typewriter made writing faster and more efficient, and it is still used today in some forms. The first known use of a computer for writing dates to the 20th century. The computer allowed for digital writing, and it revolutionized the way we create and share text. The computer is now the primary tool for writing in many contexts. The first known use of a printing press in Europe was by Johannes Gutenberg in the 15th century. Gutenberg's press used movable type, and it revolutionized the production of books. The printing press made books more affordable and accessible, and it contributed to the spread of knowledge. The first known book printed in the West was the Gutenberg Bible. It was printed in the 1450s. The Bible is a masterpiece of printing, and it is one of the most valuable books in the world. The Gutenberg Bible is a symbol of the printing revolution. The first known use of a binding for books dates to the 1st century AD. Books were bound in leather and other materials, and they became more durable. The binding of books was a significant development in the history of the book. The first known use of a bookmark dates to the 1st century AD. Bookmarks were used to mark a reader's place in a book. The bookmark was a simple tool, but it was useful for readers. Bookmarks are still used today. The first known use of a bookstand dates to the 15th century. Bookstands were used to hold books open for reading. The bookstand was a simple tool, and it is still used today. The first known use of a reading lamp dates to ancient times. Reading lamps were used to provide light for reading. The reading lamp has evolved over time, but it is still used today. The first known use of a magnifying glass for reading dates to the 13th century. The magnifying glass was used to enlarge text for reading. The magnifying glass is still used today, and it is a valuable tool for those with vision problems. The first known use of eyeglasses for reading dates to the 13th century. Eyeglasses were used to correct vision, and they were a significant advance in vision care. Eyeglasses are still used today. The first known use of a bookcase dates to ancient times. Bookcases were used to store books, and they were a common piece of furniture in libraries. Bookcases are still used today. The first known use of a library card dates to the 19th century. Library cards were used to track books borrowed from the library. Library cards are still used today in some libraries. The first known use of a public library in the United States dates to the 18th century. The first public library was founded in 1731 in Philadelphia by Benjamin Franklin. The library was a significant development in the history of education in the United States. The first known use of a lending library dates to ancient Rome. Lending libraries allowed people to borrow books for a period of time. Lending libraries are still used today. The first known use of a circulating library dates to the 18th century. Circulating libraries allowed people to borrow books for a fee. Circulating libraries were a popular form of library in the 18th and 19th centuries. The first known use of a digital book dates to the 20th century. Digital books were created for electronic devices, and they revolutionized the way we read. Digital books are still used today, and they are a growing segment of the publishing industry. And that is the things we read. The books, the writing, the materials that have carried knowledge for thousands of years. The voice softens further now. The listener may not have made it this far, and that is perfect. A long pause. Then one last quiet fact. The human body loses about 1 degree of temperature before sleep, a slight drop that signals the brain to rest. It is a process that happens without our help, every single night. The voice trails off gently. Silence holds for 5 seconds.